size are required to participate. It is a fundraising event. So again, that's 5 p.m. Tonight. And as a general reminder, if you do have your cars parked alongside the tower, please move them out of the way. Thank you very much.
It's working.
Yep. Everything is working.
That's what I'm hoping for. It's working. Except my race hero. Why is it that race hero always just gives me buckets of problems?
I don't know. It's kind of odd. I've never really had issues with it, so.
Registration to race chair?
Registration.
Go ahead.
Oh, race chair.
What's your current location? 3. Copy.
Alright, let's take this off and pluggeth ineth hereth. Go back to 3. I'm probably going to listen to 2. Oh boy. So I don't know if it's all the radios we were using in Hallett the other weekend. So when the radio kicks in on the system I've got set up, it yes.
So I heard a rumor and announcement about moving cars.
Yes.
What's the deal?
Everybody who's parked along the building needs to move away from the building so they can set up for tonight's event.
We have to move it now.
As soon as possible.
So
It's your next break.
that's my next break. Okay. All right.
Sorry, boss.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
3 minutes remaining. 3.
We should have made those announcements before lunch.
Well, we didn't know, did we?
No, we didn't. Anyway, so when the radio kicks in, it dims everything else. And it was, but when it does on our radios, I can still hear you. But the radios they gave us at Hallett, it attenuated the other signal so much I couldn't hear the other announcer at all. I could like hear more in the background, but I couldn't hear what they were saying.
Interesting.
So it's hard enough to do this without that. But oh, we're hot. I'm hot. Test, test. All right, we are here at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. Welcome to the Cow Club SCCA Divisional Races. I'm Brian Polanski. With me, Tristan Parker. And we have got 5 races for you this afternoon. And we start our racing today with Spec Racer Ford, Formula V, and Formula F. How you doing, Tristan?
Good. Happy to be here. Looking forward to seeing what we can get on the track today. A beautiful day at Buttonwillow. Hot. 97 degrees-ish out there right now, but otherwise beautiful weather. A lot of the lakes have finally dried up out there from the last couple of times we've been out here, so it should be a good day for racing.
Well, then let's get right to our starting grid here. And for that, Mr. Parker, take it away.
Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, it is multiple divisions here in this one. The Spec Racer Fords are mixed in with Formula Fords and a Formula V here as well. So here we go, starting in 18th, number 74, Mark Edwards from Los Angeles, California. In 17th, number 59, Thomas Kopitnik from Casper, Wyoming. In 16th, number 62, Mike Callis from North Hills, California. In 15th, number 65, Vince Balch from San Diego, California. In 14th, number 27, Stuart Patterson from Fallbrook, California. In 13th, number 43, Preston Lerner from Burbank, California. Alongside him, number 16, Mike Moshe from Los Angeles, California. Then you have number 11, number 69, Denny Fostick from Riverside, California. Next to him, number 71, Douglas Stewart from Northridge, California. In 9th, number 18, Aaron Stein from Santa Barbara, California. In 8th, number 5, Eric Little from Placentia, California. In 7th, number 8, Edward Erlinson from Burbank, California. In 6th, 197, Mark Ballingy from Shafter, California. In 5th, number 9, Brian Schubert from Huntington Beach, California. In 4th, number 55, Jay Rosenthal from Woodland Hills, California. And in 3rd, number 22, Robert Edmondson from Manhattan Beach, California. Your second place overall is number 54, Charles Horn from Los Gatos, California. And then starting out all off in pole position, number 28, Andy Patterson from Fallbrook, California.
And we're going to do 30-minute races today, and there is all timed here, so that is the way this is all going to work out. We will have a clock at the top that will be it's not official race time, but we're usually really close to having our cars doing what they're supposed, or a time working with what the official time is. You'll see here we have 2 split groups. So we have the Formula Fs in the front, and then we've got the Spec Racer Fords in our second group. And then right at the back of the Spec Racer Fords here, you will see Mark Edwards in that Formula V. And that's how the drivers have asked for this to be done today, and that is how we're going to do it.
Yeah, Formula V running a race of its own. Spec Racer Ford's obviously very competitive. The Formula Fords are competitive as well, but there's not as many of the Formula F cars out there here today. So we'll be keeping track of the action across the board as we can. Today's configuration, by the way, is number 1A. Literally top of the list there. And the clockwise formation, which is the one that a lot of the drivers appreciate. What they don't appreciate, though, here, Brian, is the addition of the dog leg into the track. We saw the dog leg come out last year in one of our races, and it was the bus stop, I think is what it's called, right? There's multiple stops in there, and it was a little difficult for some of these drivers. They did not have a particularly great time with it, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Long track today here as well, Brian, 3.1 miles, which is the longest configuration I think I've seen in a couple of goes. So there's the start right there across the line. The green flag is out, and they are off. That'll be our first groups of the Formula Fords. They are getting started.
And there they are coming through our screen there. And just a few 30 seconds or so down the road, we'll get our Spec Racer Fords and that one Formula V. And they will be coming and doing their thing. Here comes our Fords here coming through now. And I will go back to our start main straight camera in just a second here so we can get our Formula V, or our Spec Racer Ford group as they come in. Now they're coming out of the main straight. In just a minute or so, not even that, a few seconds, we will see the green flag fly, and our Spec Racer Fords will be doing their thing. Here they come, right towards our camera.
Don't forget the Formula V.
Yes, and a Formula V.
He just came across the line too. Green flag for the Formula V.
There you go.
In formation. Lots you like to see. Lined up with himself, and that's what matters.
That's right.
But anyway, race underway here as we get started. Again, the Spec Racer Ford category is starting early today, one of our more competitive groups, so there'll be a lot to keep an eye on right there amongst those vehicles. All of them, I think, probably jostling for their respective positions here. And it's been competitive all year long, so it's always interesting to see who kind of comes out on top. They have occasionally provided us with some serious entertainment here as well. It is worth noting. And we'll watch them actually coming down out of Phil Hill. We're now taking a look at our Formula F car there, kind of on the tail end.
Yeah, not sure if that car had a moment.
I would assume so.
Yeah, it's quite a bit behind the rest of the pack there. So my guess is that they might have had a little off and a little back on. So
you can actually see, I don't know if we're going to get a view of it on one of our cameras here, but Brian Schubert, who started off in third overall, got around Jay Rosenthal relatively quickly here and is kind of eating up the distance now between, I believe, the number 22 car of Robert Edmondson. You'll see that number 9 in the yellow there drifting really hard behind as our Formula Fords come across the line here. Andy Patterson still with the lead, but he's being chased by Stuart Patterson, who's put up the fastest lap right there at 2:04.969. So we'll see what they're going about here. About 5 cars in that Formula Ford group. The rest of the field, barring that Formula V, they are of their own accord. The last Formula Ford car going across right there, that's Mike Callis, who I have to assume had some sort of, as you put it, moment right there.
yeah, that's my guess. Here's our our Spec Racer Ford group now coming through the S's and heading down towards our final corner, which when we're in this direction, we're going clockwise, the numbers are backwards here. So we don't use our numbered corners when we talk about it here because it's just confusing, especially for me. And it's all about me, folks. So here's our main straight camera. As you can see, the Spec Racer Fords are already eating up the back of that Formula F field. So it won't be long before those Fords are at least a front pack of Fords are going to be getting right up there with the back of the Formula Vs.
You saw right there, too, as they come across the line, a lot of speed being applied there. They are very much in chase mode there between Brian Schubert and Robert Edmondson. So that's something to keep an eye on as they continue their way around the course here. We're back looking at Phil Hill at the moment. You see if we pick up any of our cars coming around. And here heading down into the dog leg again, a little bit of a tightening up of the pack right there. Very brief. A lot of dust kicked up on that turn. We can't quite get a good camera angle of it, but that top 4 grouping there, the Spec Racer Fords, that's Edmondson, Schubert, Rosenthal, and Ballingy, are all quite tight with one another up there at the top.
So when the groups are split up as big as they are here, it's hard to keep track of both of the races going on. Oh, nice big puff of dust there. From the front, too. I'm not quite sure which is the one that went off, but we've got our Formula F crew here heading across the front straight here. And then you will see them coming around turn 1, or the first corner, which we call Sunrise, as they come through here.
That was a tight grouping at the lead of that pack. Andy Patterson, Stuart Patterson, Charles Horn, they were all kind of grouped up around one another. One of them was kicked out to the sort of outside edge of the track. I'm not sure who it was, but you're seeing your Spec Racer Fords on the screen here now as they come up through the S's. And you'll get a view of them there kind of in the distance. It's starting to widen up just a little bit, but that front group of the Spec Racers remains quite tight here as they come across the line. Again, Brian Schubert really pressing hard here, goes in past Robert Edmondson, ducks around to the outside of the turn, and he's crashed. He's spun out right there on the tail end. It's might have been a little bit of contact. I can't necessarily tell, but he unfortunately looked like he bit off more than he could chew right there. Couldn't control the car in, and you've got a number 9 off the track right now.
And that incident happened just outside of our camera view. Hopefully he'll be able to get back on the race.
Work now that he's going to have to do to try and make up for that huge differential that's been opened up right there. And unfortunately, I imagine his dreams of being able to pull out a second place finish, even a top 3 finish, are well out of context.
All right, so for those of you at home who may have watched all of our screens go black there for a second, your director's heart has now started beating again. That was a momentary internet hiccup.
Uh-oh. Well, that would have been problematic.
Yeah. So we're all back, and we're ready to go. Woo!
Well, it's all good. Everything's okay.
When your screen goes completely black, you start saying a quick prayer.
Yeah. I understand completely. But it's all good. Everything's functioning as it should be. Hopefully we can say the same of all our racers out there right now.
There is our lead 3 now. It was 4 until Schubert had the incident going into the first corner. And we'll have a good idea of how badly that costed him here from a time standpoint, but we can see it on the cameras here that it cost him a ton of track position.
Yeah, here they come across the start again. Your confirmed leader now is that number 71 car there. I believe that is, I'm sorry, not the 71 car. I'm getting my cars confused. Robert Edmondson still controlling the top of the pack there. Jay Rosenthal, Mark Ballingy running it out. Douglas Stewart kind of in the mix there as well. Meanwhile, the Pattersons continue to dominate the top side of the Formula Fs. Stuart Patterson put up his fastest lap time. You'll see it over there on the pylon, actually, at about 2 minutes and 0.6 seconds. So a blistering pace being set out there by the Formula F cars as we speak. Coming across the line now is the tail end of the Spec Racer Fords. And, I mean, progress is being made, I think, here by number 9 car to sort of catch up. But, indeed, it's a little too much of a hurdle, I think, at this stage as we watch the leaders of that pack come in through the dogleg.
Yeah, he lost 7 positions from where he started, and I know he'd already made up a couple. So
he has made up a couple. I see him. He's past the number 43 car right there, Preston Lerner. And now he's kind of on the sights of, I want to say that's Michael Moshe, who he's about to pass again. So he is climbing, but yeah, it's an unfortunate turn of events right there. And good news, honestly, for Robert Edmondson and Jay Rosenthal, because he was on a heater in that mix. Meanwhile, Stuart Patterson still holding the lead there among the Formula Fords as they came across the line last time. Lap not quite as fast, only about 0.3 of a second off. First of 5 races we're having out here today at Buttonwillow. We'll have more action for you after this. All sorts of entertaining drivers out there today. And again, it's a lovely day for it. We couldn't ask for much better here. Maybe a little bit cooler, but that's about it. Watching our Formula Ford come down through the bus stop here. They're taking these turns quite a bit tighter than their Spec Racer compatriots out here on the track. But that Spec Racer group of 3 has very much solidified there in that lead. It does look like Mark Ballingy has... Mark Ballingy has crept up right behind Jay Rosenthal. Here comes the rest of the Spec Racer pack. And indeed, Brian Schubert has battled his way past Michael Moshe and is now aiming his sights on the next in the line. I think he's just going to try and sort of pick off driver after driver. Denny Fostick in that number 69 car. He'll be the next one on the list. If you're wondering, though, the gap between Robert Edmondson and Jay Rosenthal there for that top spot, not too much in it, less than a second. Same goes for Mark Ballingy and Jay Rosenthal himself. So keeping it relatively close right there. Can't really say the same about the Formula Fords right now. Brian Stuart Patterson with a 2.7 second lead over his opponents. Ooh, that was potentially not very good. Big kick of dust there coming out of the bus stop. Sorry to interrupt you, Brian. It went right into the face of, I want to say that was Mark Ballingy, who pivoted, where he swerved a little bit right there, but he managed to pull it all back in together and keeps going.
And even on our main straight cam, you can see that dust off to
Very
the left here
dusty
as
today.
it kind of moves away. But that is our bus stop, the exit of our bus stop, or what we call the dog leg here. And that's that. There was also, and I can't see it now, but just on the last time I had this camera up, you could see a dust devil out in the distance there.
Yeah,
there it is, right there, just to the left of our start stand there. You can see the dust kicked up there into a dust devil. Anyway, so we're doing 30-minute races. Our race clock at the top of the screen there is not official race time, but really close. So we'll keep an eye on that.
It's an approximation.
It is.
It's not usually too far off of what we're aiming for.
Correct.
The Formula Fords, by the way, navigating some traffic there. They've got, I believe, I want to say, that's Preston Lerner or perhaps Thomas Kopitnik. The lead group of Spec Racer Fords by again, and everything's pretty much maintained its positioning, though the gap has closed significantly. Jay Rosenthal and Mark Ballingy. Rosenthal is only about 0.2 of a second behind now Robert Edmondson. Speaking of one of our earlier drivers, Brian Schubert now has worked his way up past Denny Fostick and Aaron Stein to put himself behind Douglas Stewart and then Vince Balsh. He's got to catch up with both of them if he wants to get himself back into the fourth place position, but he's driving furiously out there. He's got about a 3.5 second gap between him and Douglas Stewart, so he's going to have to do some serious work there. That said, still plenty of time left in this race, judging by what we have on the counter here, which I must say, Brian, based on Race Hero, you're like about 4 seconds off, which is not bad. He's still got 2/3 of this race to play with here, as do I think these leaders in the Spec Racer Ford group, who admittedly have to be thinking about how they want to play this out. One of the things we see the Spec Racer Fords do, I'd say pretty consistently, Brian, is play very cautious with one another up until about the last 2 or 3 laps, and then they'll try and pull off a draft and just kind of slingshot their way past who's ever in the lead. So Robert Edmondson has to have his eye on the rearview mirror.
Well, and that is kind of their modus operandi.
Indeed.
And we see this race after race after race, and when they do it and they do make that plan work, usually a group of cars kind of starts to walk away from the rest of the pack, as we're seeing here. And then they can get far enough ahead so that when you get to those final laps, it doesn't matter what's happening behind them. They can just race hard for against each other for whichever podium spot they are hoping to achieve, which, of course, is usually the top spot. But, sometimes there's even a bigger breakup at the front, too.
Most people want.
Most people want the top spot, right?
Speaking of top spot, Mark Edwards in the Formula V, we'll give him a mention here because he is out there. He's doing his thing. He just passed the start line. He's doing fine. Now, there's been a little bit of work here. It looks like Jay Rosenthal got around Robert Edmondson. Robert Edmondson, trying to return the favor, goes for the same attempted pass that Brian Schubert did heading down into Sunrise, but he doesn't stay as committed to the bit. He'll pull out right there as they're going through. Meanwhile, speaking of the devil, Brian Schubert right there getting around Douglas Stewart, now hunting Vince Balsh at about 0.44 of a second behind. So that's giving the number 65 car something to worry about. Of course, the gap between the number 65 car and Mark Ballingy is about 15.2 seconds. So that one's going to be an even bigger gap to make up right there. But some good driving from the back of the pack. Interesting to see now if Jay Rosenthal can hold on to that lead position among the Spec Racer Fords, Brian. That is, again, it's not an enviable place to be, but it does look like Robert Edmondson has given him a little bit of space. That said, they come up through the bus stop, and Edmondson really lays into the gas here going onto the Riverside turn. I think he's looking to try and get around him, but they're spaced out just a little too much right there. I don't think he's quite got the room that he wants. But come back around to Sunrise next time, and it's going to have to be Jay Rosenthal worrying about the same, what he has done unto others being done unto him. Let's just put it that way.
There you go. Coming up on the halfway point here, and that's going to be a good time for us to do a full field rundown here. Your leader right now is Stuart Patterson in Formula FTS. Then followed by Andy Patterson. Charles Horn is third. Then you've got Eric Little in fourth, followed by Edward Erlinson in fifth. Now your Spec Racer Ford front runners. You've got Jay Rosenthal, Robert Edmondson, Mark Ballingy are your top three in Spec Racer Ford. Vince Balch is 15 seconds back in fourth place in a group with Brian Schubert and Douglas Stewart. Then a little further back, you've got Denny Fostick, Aaron Stein, Mike Moshe, Preston Lerner. Mike Callis is also kind of off the back in Formula F with Thomas Kopitnik, and of course, Mark Edwards, the lone Formula V competitor. That's our full field rundown at the halfway point, brought to you by Inside the SCCA. Also want to thank a big thanks to Porterfield Racing Brakes. They are our title sponsor of the Cal Club Divisional races, brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes. They have a whole bunch of stuff besides brakes. You can go check out everything that they sell at porterfield-brakes.com. And, of course, they sell outside of Southern California. They have this really cool thing called shipping. If you need it, they can get it to you. Give them a check out. All right, 3 minutes, 53 seconds to go here in our Spec Racer Ford and Formula F, Formula V race. And so far, you got a couple little battles at the front of each of those packs, and everything going well as possible at this point in time. There is that 15-second gap between third and fourth in Spec Racer Ford, Tristan, but one quick full course yellow, and that can all get jumped back up again, and then you've got a whole big race going on.
Yeah, indeed, it can get jumbled quite easily. I must say, outside of Brian Schubert going off on Sunrise, it's been a relatively clean race here from these cars. Nobody's really putting anything out of line. The flagging network remarkably quiet on these drivers, so everybody is minding their P's and Q's to the best of their behavior at the moment. We'll see in terms of how the race progresses, whether that holds. I think you'd see that the top of the Spec Racer Ford pack, Jay Rosenthal, Robert Edmondson, Ballingy, they're all playing it very cautiously here. Nobody wants to be the guy who mucks it up at this stage. We're about a little over halfway through, so still some racing left to do. By the way, credit to Stuart Patterson there in the FFTS, coming in at the fastest lap of the race so far, and that's 2 minutes and 34.347 of a second. So, doing some heavy lifting right there. Jay Rosenthal still holding on in the lead. He's being chased by Robert Edmondson. 0.4 of a second difference between them. Mark Ballingy is in the neighborhood as well, still at the top of the leaderboard. And then shortly behind right there, I think we should be seeing one of our other Spec Racer drivers. Yep, there comes Brian Schubert. He's 18 seconds behind Mark Ballingy. So close to an insurmountable gap right there as the Spec Racer Fords begin to make their way around that Formula V car of Mike Edwards. So a little bit of traffic building up. We'll see if the Formula Fords are kind of going to get mixed up in this as well. Though so far, the split start seems to be working, Brian. They're relatively separated. Nobody's kind of running too much into one another.
I agree with you 100%. The goal of the split start is to give each group kind of their own race, and today it's working like it should. And look at that. Stuart Patterson goes purple right at the top with a lap of 1:59.985. That is a great race lap here, considering our weather conditions. We haven't talked about that yet today, but I can bring that up here for you, and we can talk about that in just a second. Here is our weather conditions. That can't be right. It is not 80 degrees outside.
I don't think it's updated since since this morning. It is. I think probably about 90 something out there right now. We could find out real quick on the fly here. It's hot. It's a hot day at Buttonwillow, which is kind of to be expected. That's the reason, of course, why we're taking we'll be taking our break after this. For the next couple of months, because it's just going to be too difficult to race out there. Currently 90 degrees.
Thank you.
And probably only going to get hotter. We haven't quite reached the peak of the day yet. So the Spec Racer Ford's in a way a little bit lucky that they get to do this early. They don't have to deal with sitting out there on the grid for the extreme heat. And here comes the leaders again. This time it's Mark Ballingy who's attempting a pass heading into Sunrise. And boy, it's all about Sunrise here. And it's all about sort of being unable to pass in Sunrise. Robert Edmondson going side to side there with the number 22 car of Robert Edmondson, who actually contains himself a little bit. Can be a very kind of defensive battling driver right there. Didn't quite give that number 197 car the treatment of the number 9 car received, but it will result in him being passed right there. So that'll be Mark Ballingy slipping into second place overall in the Spec Racer Fords as they head up through the hill and down through the grapevine. Heading on towards the bus stop, you'll see the tail ends of the group here for the Spec Racers coming across, and meanwhile the Formula Fs continue to do their thing. Brian, fastest time now sits at 1:59.985 in the pocket of Stuart Patterson, who is comfortably in the lead of the Formula cars.
So when you see purple on our timing pylon there, that means that car has just went the fastest lap of the race. If you see green, that means that driver just turned their fastest lap of the race. So that's what all of that means there if you're scoring at home. So if you are used to watching the SCCA Super Tour races and would like to see coverage more similar to that, it's all about the cameras, folks. If you want to sponsor the Cal Club live stream, and that is how we will get more cameras up here and get even better coverage here out at Buttonwillow. So if you'd like to do that, just contact me at raceannouncerbrian@gmail.com. So that's how we do that. Lots of sponsorship opportunities. If you love what you're seeing and want to help us out here, that'd be awesome.
Bit of a mistake out there for Mark Ballingy, who had been driving, quite aggressively to get around Robert Edmondson. Spun and continued down over towards the Riverside turn. So that's actually widened the gap up significantly here in the lead. Robert Edmondson will move up to second, but Jay Rosenthal took advantage of that slowdown to kind of blast his way ahead of his nearest competitor. So 2.4 seconds gap between Edmondson and Rosenthal. Ballingy now a whole 8 seconds back, and he's actually put himself in a position here on the tail end of this race where he might lose third place, because Brian Schubert has battled back into that fourth place slot and is only about 8.6 seconds behind Ballingy. That is doable, I would say, in this time frame, considering the pacing that has been going on here. But again, just goes to show you it only takes one little mistake here for you to kind of get really set back.
Yeah, and it seems like a big gap, and it might be unsurmountable, but what has happened is with that spin, Ballingy has lost the help of that draft. So now he is a driver on an island with no help, and that's good news for Brian Schubert, who will try to bridge that gap. And Brian Schubert has someone a little closer to his tailpipe, and that might be a little bit of a draft to help him catch up. Still a long shot with 7 minutes to go, but certainly something worth looking at and seeing if these lap times do go down over the next several laps here.
7 minutes left in the race now, or just thereabouts, as the timer ticks right there. One racer, that'll be Mark Edwards in the Formula V. He is quite confident in his ability to take the top of the podium, so he is pulled into the behind the wall here. He's at his race. The glam drink got its run. That was all that was needed. So good for him. And he'll take a well-deserved rest here. Similar stories, I think, coming out now of the Formula Fs. Everything looking pretty conclusively in favor of Stuart Patterson right there. Andy Patterson would have to find some real magic in the bag there to get around Stuart Patterson at this point in time. But otherwise, they can kind of just continue on their way. Eric Little with a little hiccup right there. Went off the track, might be out of the race here due to some sort of mechanical error. Meanwhile, the spec racers coming back in through the line right now. It's still Jay Rosenthal in the lead, still Robert Edmondson chasing. Edmondson has made up that gap to about 1.428 seconds, so very close right there between Edmondson and Rosenthal here in the final sort of 5 of this race.
Yes, and taking a look at that gap between Ballingy and Schubert, it's now 7.6 seconds. So he is making up a little time, but not fast enough with 5 minutes to go. He's going to have to take some big chunks out of that gap here in the next couple of laps. But taking 3/4 of a second each lap off is not going to be a successful plan here.
Well, this is a little bit interesting here because Mark Ballingy hit some traffic right there coming around through out of the bus stop. And that was a little problematic right there. That was Thomas Kapitnik, I believe, who got in the way. And it was a bit of a, in all credit, credit to Mark Ballingy, no shade on the name right there, but he did have a little bit of an awkward pass right there, for lack of a better word. Finally, by the way, the Formula Fords have intermingled here with the spec racers, so it is getting a little choppy out there at the moment. But we'll, keep a close eye on what's happening towards the top of the spec racer Ford category. Obviously, battle for third and a battle for first underway right here.
And that is the joy and the pain of multi-class racing here. And for the spec racer Fords, they typically don't have to deal with this. A lot of times they have enough cars where they are the only cars on the racetrack, the only class on the racetrack. And so that's not something they're terribly used to doing, is having to deal with other classes. So a little bit of negotiation going on there as they go through. And now we're seeing Mark Ballingy come through and Brian Schubert. He is now 6 seconds behind Ballingy in that race to possibly get third in class. But with 3 minutes and 40 seconds to go, that is time is running out to make that happen.
I'd be very surprised if he's able to do it at this juncture. He does also have traffic there as well. He has to get around Thomas Kapitnik somewhere on this next lap. We're not quite at our final lap here just yet, but it's definitely been a bit of an interesting race for the Spec Racers. A little bit of a hiccup right there from Jay Rosenthal, speaking of the interesting race, and that allows Robert Edmondson to just sneak up right behind him, and they are almost nose to tailpipe, the two of them, as they go through Riverside. Here comes Mark Ballingy powering forward. Brian Schubert has handily managed to get around Thomas Kapitnik, heading towards the next car in the line. Again, I just don't think he's got enough time here, Brian, to really make up the gap that he did. But he's been putting up a hell of a race on the back end of it. But Robert Edmondson, really, I think the car to watch right now. Is he going to be able to find his way around Jay Rosenthal? And if they don't come across the line here with Edmondson in the lead of Rosenthal, it's got to happen heading down towards Sunrise. He's got to have a try for it in one of these. I would imagine maybe 2 laps that we're going to have left here.
Yeah, it's very possible that next time by, it's going to be the final lap. There is your 2 leaders just flying through our screen there in Spec Racer Ford, and they'll be coming onto our main straight here in just a few seconds. Here they are, coming right towards our camera, and one of them puts a wheel off, really pushing hard. I'm guessing that is Edmondson trying to get caught up to Jay Rosenthal, but not being successful so far. And here they will come through Sunrise again. At some point in time, you're right. If Edmondson wants this win, he is going to have to pull out and try to make the pass here. You will see them on the left of our screen as they come out from behind the pylon, and that is going to be heading up towards Cotton Corners. There they are, up the hill there, and a little further off in the distance, you will see them going through Grapevine and then heading down towards the Dogleg, and our white flag is out.
All right, white flag is out right there, obviously hitting the Formula Fs first, but it will apply to the Spec Racers in their time. So making everything a little bit more tense here between the top 2 drivers, Edmondson and Rosenthal. I think you're right. I think Edmondson was pushing it hard there, coming down through Sunset. Really wanted to try and go for the pass on the straight. But unfortunately, you put a wheel off and you can't do it.
And here they come through Riverside, still same positioning, Rosenthal and Edmondson. And Edmondson's really just not catching up enough to really put good pressure on here. But we will keep for the next lap and a half. This is the best race on the track, and we will follow them around one more time. There they are off on the left of your screen as they come down, going all the way down towards Star Mazda, and then they'll come right back at us.
Right, and I just don't know if the kind of cruel march of time here benefits Robert Edmondson on this one, because I just think he's got not a lot left.
Yep.
And his passing opportunities, essentially, if he wants to make it on the Sunrise turn, which again seems to be the favorite place, this is it. He's run out of road to do it. He's got to make an attempt here. He will start to drift very close behind Rosenthal. They're heading down towards Sunrise turn. He'll go for it. Will he be able to complete it, though? That's the question. He tries to slip under the side, and no. Rosenthal ducks in front of him and keeps him just held off there. So Edmondson not able to find the dream pass that he was looking for. The checkered flag, by the way, up and ready to go for the Formula Ford. It is waving here now as Stuart Patterson comes across the line, the number 27 car handily winning the race right there on lap number 15.
All right, we will go back out to our Phil Hill camera to catch our our Spec Racer Ford cars as they come through for the final time here. It'll be, last time by, it was Rosenthal, then Edmondson. We will see what it looks like this time. They were almost a full lap behind our Formula F winner, but still on that lead lap, so they're going to get to complete this lap. Here they come into our view. It still looks like just too big of a gap for Edmondson to overcome unless there's a hiccup by Jay Rosenthal on the final 5 corners here, Jay Rosenthal is going to be able to drive this one to victory.
No doubt there will be some sort of attempt by Edmondson to get around, maybe coming down into Star Mazda here. Maybe we'll catch it in the S's. I mean, he's gotta make a try again. Otherwise, he just has to kind of sit back and accept that second place finish. And I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. Obviously, a little hard at times to see them on the camera right now, but they should swing back into the view
Here
shortly.
they come right into our view, and Edmondson's still not close enough to make that turn. They'll be coming up onto our final corner here to take the checkered flag. There they come into our view. It is still Rosenthal, then Edmondson. Oh, and a big puff of dust. That means Edmondson's trying his hardest, but just not enough to get there, and Jay Rosenthal will take the win.
Looks like Mark Ballingy is going to be able to go ahead and slide in here in the third place. Brian Schubert not able to catch him at the end of the day, but credit where credit is due, considering he fell all the way to the back of the Spec Racer pack, did a spectacular job to battle his way up to 4th overall.
All right, well, let's go through our finishing order, and then we're going to take a short break before we get on to our next race.
Well, starting at the top, your overall race winner and the winner for the FFTS class, that is number 27, Stuart Patterson. In second place, number 54, Charles Horn, the winner of the FF class. In third place, number 8, Edward Erlinson. In fourth, your overall winner for the Spec Racer Ford class, that's number 55, Jay Rosenthal. Behind him in fifth, number 22, Robert Edmondson. In sixth, number 197, Mark Ballingy. In seventh, number 9, Brian Schubert. In eighth, number 28, Andy Patterson. In ninth, number 5, Eric Little. And then in 10th, Vince Balk, followed by Denny Fosdick, Douglas Stewart, Aaron Stein, Preston Lerner, Mike Moshe, Mike Callis, Thomas Kapitnik, and then Mark Edwards, who turned it in a little early. The overall winner for the Formula V.
Go. That's going to do it. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we've got our production classes. They are up next. Don't go anywhere. It is sure to be a good one. Stay with us. welcome back to the Cal Club SCCA Divisional Races brought to you by Porterfield Race Brakes. I'm Brian Belinsky. Tristan Parker is here. And our next race up is, as you can see on the screen, GT Lights, E-Production, B-Spec, all of our IT cars. And if we have any pros, Spec 7s or Spec 944s, they will be here too. Let's get our starting grid underway here since our pace lap. Wow.
Yeah.
Eh.
It's okay.
Why don't you talk for a
It
minute?
happens to the best of us. Sometimes it's much worse than that. So, lest we forget some of television's greatest moments. Anyway, looking ahead now to our grid here for Group 3, which is mostly STLs with a little bit of sprinkling of EPs, T4s, and F4s. Not a very big group here today, just 7 cars. Starting in 7th, number 93, the FP car, a 1970 Opel GT from Bellflower, California. Beautiful little
Love
vehicle.
the Opel GTs.
In position number 6, it's number 21, Jack McKechum in the 2001 Acura Integra from Santa Monica, California. In 5th, number 98, David Zink in a 2010 Mazda RX-8 from Henderson, Nevada, an outer stater. In 4th, number 191, Richard James in a 2006 Mazda MX-5 from Chapruca Canyon, California. In 3rd, number 2, Brandon Dross in a 1987 Mazda RX-7 from Goleta, California. In 2nd place, number 53, Sean Fisher in a 2008 Mazda RX-8 from Sin City itself, Las Vegas, Nevada. And then in 1st place, your overall pole position leader, James Bishop in a 2000 Toyota Celica from Clovis, California.
All right, so 30-minute races today. We'll have a clock up on the screen, and it is not official race time, but it is really close. So,
and ready to go here. Lights coming out on the pace car, and we should be seeing them cross the line soon. Don't know if this is going to be a remarkably competitive race here amongst these 7, but it's a wonderful afternoon for a drive out here at Buttonwillow, so hopefully everybody has a good time. That's what we're all about.
are we?
Yeah.
Okay, we're about having a good time.
Trying to be positive.
It is always fun out here, and you'll see
It
the
is.
pace car coming right into our living rooms here in just a second with the field behind them already lining up a little bit 2 by 2 here. And we will get our racing started here in just a second. Chuck Phillips is our starter for this race. Once they get on our main straightaway, he will decide whether they are lined up properly. And if he likes what he sees, the green flag will go in the air, and we will get ourselves started here. Pace car is on pit lane. Here comes our field onto the main straight. And it looks like our green flag's going in the air. There we go. But he looks good at that point in time. Here they come into our Sunrise. Of course, this is coming out of Sunrise. That's what you're looking there. There is our field.
Again, today's configuration is 1A clockwise, so the very first track configuration, clockwise the preferred direction. Overall, a pretty nice track out there. The A section is taken off, so there's a little bit of shortage on the first kind of straight into a turn. The addition that is most interesting overall for our drivers is the bus stop, a little bit of a dip in and out where the dogleg would usually be, the straightaway up there, and that's proved to be always a bit interesting. Spec Racer Fords, Formula Fords, they didn't struggle with it too much. We saw a fair amount of dust kick up as they come around through it. The line here a little bit different, though. For this class here, they're not going to take that turn quite as wide. And at the moment, they're all doing a decent job of staying together. But I think over the course of 30 minutes or so, that pack will spread out just a fair bit.
And here they come. You'll see them up towards us right now. This is our Phil Hill camera. Coming out of Riverside, coming up the hill towards Phil Hill. So our cars in this class are, we've got some production cars, actually one production car, 2 production cars, Production cars are sometimes a little older, open-topped roadster-type cars from the 60s. And then we also have some newer tin-top cars that have been added to the class to beef up the numbers here a little bit. And then, of course, we have our Super Touring Light cars in this group. There's 4 of them. And then we have one Touring 4 car. That's David Zink.
Yeah, a fair amount of Mazdas in here. Maybe they'll be making appearances in some of our later group. I know that some of these drivers tend to cover multiple races. Speaking as they come here across the line, James Bishop still in the lead, though it did look like Brandon Drost was attempting maybe to get around James Bishop. Richard James, Jack McKechnie, Gary Murph, David Zink, and Sean Fisher all kind of falling into line there as they move their way around the racetrack. But yeah, some of these drivers, you may recognize their names from later on. And of course, there are a fair number of kind of interesting and unique cars out there. The Opel, the Integra, and the Celica are all very kind of different. So I always enjoy watching them have a go. Do like a good Celica, me. I always think that's a cool looking car. So.
And then you can see this group here off into the distance going through Cotton Corners and up towards Grapevine. See our cameras here, our cars coming into Riverside. That is the corner off in the distance there. Here they are. And then they will come up towards Phil Hill. 26 minutes left in the race. I actually like the timed races better because here we got a pass coming through Riverside. That is maybe a car starting to go a little bit slower because those 2 cars got by him way too easily. So that car might be having some sort of a mechanical issue. It does look like it's a little off pace there as they come up through that part there. We're going to get our leaders now coming through and towards us in a second. But what I was saying is I like the time races because a lot of times we have some faster groups and some slower groups. And, our wings and things in our GT cars can, reel off 15 laps pretty quick. And the other classes would use the entire time to do their 15 laps. Well, those faster cars, they lose some track time. So I like the idea of the 30-minute time races, and it's easier for my clock to work.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's obviously more races to come here. 3 more groups after this. Our last race starting at 4:35. There will be a brief break after this race for the workers, so we'll be taking a pause here in the racing, but we'll be back again with our next group. Still, obviously, 25-ish minutes to go here amongst the cars that are currently out on the track, but not a lot to report on out there at the moment. Keeping it relatively calm. I say that, and there is a pit stop here from Jack McKechnie in the 21 black car. That's the Acura Integra. Might have been the car, Brian, that you saw going a little slow on the back on the other side by Phil Hill. Looks like he's had to pull into the pits there and get the whole thing taken a look at, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, that does make sense. And also want to point out Brandon Drazy in that E-Production Mazda. That is an old RX-7. And that is a really nice race car if you ever get a chance to take a look at it. Here he comes into our screen. This is the white car with the orange numbers on it. And, of course, orange makes it easy for me to see from a distance. So that doesn't hurt from an announcer standpoint.
Bright color.
That's right. So here he comes right there past us. And then not far behind, you've got James Bishop in the STL car. Now, those 2 cars are not fighting for a class win. Bishop is fighting for that with Richard James. Richard James is a writer, used to be the editor of Sports Car Magazine.
Right.
And he is now working, I think he works the IMSA beat for Racer. So if you're like the IMSA races, a lot of his writing is what you're paying attention to at Racer Magazine. So
the insider right there with the knowledge.
There you go. Absolutely. Here comes Drazy into our view right now, having a pretty easy go of it. He just went purple, too, by the way, with a 2:15.535. And I think he can go faster in that car too, but he has no reason to at the moment.
No.
It's also pretty toasty hot here too, so
Yeah, definitely the opportunity for a comfortable drive here amongst the competitors. No need to really go hell for leather in this group in particular. Maybe at the very top of the list, but even they seem relatively tame at the moment. Maybe it's the matter of the heat,
yeah.
or what have you. That is, tends to be a factor whether we like it or not out here in these races.
I'm gonna
So-
try one more time, see if I can make my little weather bug work here.
Mm.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. It's up to almost
Oh, and it didn't work the way I like.
never-ending sargassum.
There we
Yep,
go.
there we go.
That's 92 degrees. It takes a
Hot.
second for it to even the web browser's too hot to work right now. So anyway, 92 degrees, supposed to get up to 94 today. So I think we're gonna get there.
I hope so.
You do? You're not driving a race car.
Oh, I know.
That's true. If you were, you wouldn't be hoping.
I wouldn't want to sit out there on the grid in the heat, but it certainly makes things a little bit more interesting, a little bit of a challenging condition here for our drivers. So that's always entertaining.
So when you see on the timing pylon there, the name is in kind of a peach color. That means that car is off the track at the moment. Jack McEachern is in the pits, and it does not look like he's returned yet.
No,
We will we'll see what happens with that car.
not behind the wall though. Just
Right.
in the pits, so he's
So
still got the option of rejoining the race if he so chooses.
That is a 2001 Acura Integra. McEachern out of hails from Santa Monica, just down the road from us here. His sponsor, CarolSells.com. Don't know what Carol sells, but Carol sells something.
Makes you wonder. This is an interesting little prospect here. This is just a fun little bit of trivia. So I looked up because I was interested in Toyota Celicas. This is an interesting car, and this is the model numbers for Toyota Celicas: T160, T180, T200, T230.
What happened to T210 and T220?
Oh no, it was going up, and the only reason I bring this up is because A, there's not a whole lot going on right now, but B, I don't understand why they went from 20 gaps to a sudden 30 gap there at the end. The symmetry is ruined. Anyway,
I have a suspicion.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, they stopped making the Celica for a while, and then they started up again with a new model after many years.
Maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why. I'm just speculating.
Quite funny.
Just speculating.
Jumps from 200 to 230. So go figure right there. By the way, if you are interested in participating in any of these Cal Club events, they are quite fun. It's a good day. There's lots of interesting jobs you can do out here. We're always looking for staff. We've got timing. We've got scoring. We got flaggers of many varieties. We've got a sound person out there this weekend reading the decibels.
Stand, technical inspectors.
The grid, we got everything.
Folks.
Everything.
Announcers.
I was just going to say, have announcers as well. All the stuff that you can do. If you're interested in that, don't forget to check out the Cal Club website and see what's on offer. And, of course, if you're not here in California or Southern California, but you're interested in getting involved, you can take a look at the SCCA as a whole, and they'll point you in the direction of some interesting events that you could attend in your area. Cal Club is just not all road racing, by the way, as well. They've got, I think, Rallycross out there as well. So there are a multitude of opportunities there for those of you who are interested in the racing. Everybody on the track doing their thing right now. Not a lot to say. Brandon Dreesy is in the lead right now. James Bishop clocking in at the second right there. Then you have Richard James, Gary Murph, David Zink. It looks like Sean Fisher didn't actually make it out on the track today. So with that and Jack McKechnie still in the pit lane, really just a race of 5 right there right now as Richard James moves into 3rd place. And the gaps between these drivers not particularly close. At the lead, James Bishop is about 1.7 seconds behind Brandon Dreese, which is not a huge gap. I mean, it is kind of doable. Did just set the fastest lap right there in that STL, 2:14.757. So good work right there. But not enough really to correct the situation as it stands here. And again, I mean, he's STL. It's an EP. There's no strong incentive outside of pride, I guess, to really make a fight out of it. So we'll keep an eye on it, but we'll see if it's gonna gets any hairier.
And if you're looking for the websites that we were talking about just a few minutes ago, making graphics on the fly here, calclub.com. If you're in Southern California, that's the place to go to find out more. If you're not here in SoCal and you're watching from other parts of the country, go to SCCA.com. They'll get you to your local region and find out all you need to know through that. Look at these two cars coming right at us right now. That's Dreese and Bishop. And they're going to have a little race here with 17 and a half minutes to go, or 17 minutes.
Yeah, certainly there's some fight there, and James Bishop and Dreese's going to have his work cut out for them. Bishop in the Toyota, the aforementioned Celica, and then Dreese in that 1987 Mazda RX-7. Again, a good race car right there. So the work really cut out there for Dreese as the race progresses. We'll see if the opportunity for a pass arises. I'm a little doubtful of it just in the main here, Brian. I just don't think they need to make such an effort, but it does seem like Dreese wants to give it the college best. So we'll be, powering ahead here while he's getting chased by Bishop.
Absolutely. And, I mean, while it's not a pass for class position, everyone wants to take the checkered flag first. It's all about the glory here.
True.
Because, they're not making much money doing this at all.
No, you're playing for pride. I mean,
exactly.
That is how it is, right? It's a hobby. As much as it is a sport for most of these people, it's a hobby. So you can't expect to win every race, but you do want to win as many as you can. And yes, a viable candidate to take that checkered flag right there is Brandon Dreese, who I'm sure would like to walk away with it, right? Though technically, just based on classification breakdowns, the STLs already have a winner, and that's in the form of James Bishop. So it's rank versus overall, and I'm sure that was.
And he's got to finish the race, though. I mean,
he does.
He's got Richard James there right behind him at 11, not right behind, but 11 seconds back. If he tries to get racy and has a little coming together with Dreese, it could ruin his day right there, and then Richard James can drive right past if they go off. And he could be on the top step of the STL podium. So while you want to win the race overall, more important is to not screw up your class race, because in the end, they don't give out an overall trophy here. They just give out class trophies.
No, they do not. So you are kind of fighting in your class. So something that the STL and EPs have to be aware of here.
Well, and they're both, they've done this a while, so they know what the game is, and they will, I doubt they're going to come together here with 14 and a half minutes to go. Let's go through the full field here. Brandon Dreese's your leader in E-Production, your leader in STL. James Bishop is in second place, followed by Richard James. That would be your second place car in STL. Then you've got Gary Murph, your F-Production leader, in fourth place. David Zink is your T4 leader in fifth place. Jack McKechnie would be your third-place car in STL, but he has not completed enough laps yet to be considered a finisher, and he needs to get back out there. And I'm sure that's why they haven't pushed him behind the wall yet, because if he can get out and do another, maybe 5 or 6 laps here in the end, he could have he needed to complete half the laps here in the SCCA to be considered a finisher, and he's not going to get there if he doesn't get a couple more laps in.
He must have a problem that they deem as fixable if he's behind the wall or not behind this wall after all this long. So there's got to be something in that car that they think is something they can salvage out of this.
Right.
It's just hard to see. I mean, we don't have a very good view. It's not like he's sitting right next to us, so we don't know what that issue is in particular. But hope for McKechnie's sake that they're able to diagnose it and get the car back out there on the track. Because like you said, want to get that marker, want to get that participation, get it down and get it dusted. Speaking of participation, though, it is, I think, about halfway through the race here, so we'll bring you a full field rundown at the halfway mark here. Starting in first place, number 2, Brandon Dreezy. In second place, number 17, James Bishop. In third place, number 191, Richard James. In fourth, number 93, Gary Murph. In fifth, number 98, David Zink. And then in sixth, still waiting in the pits, is number 21, Jack McKecham. So a slowdown across the board right there, but nothing too super duper significant. As let's see, like the march of I don't know, Brandon Droz at the top. Lost myself there for a second.
You are.
I was could not figure out what sentence I wanted to string together as I was thinking.
That is our full field rundown, brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast. You can check that out on all of the podcast channels that are out there, at least most of them. You can also watch them live on Wednesday nights on the Racing Network. That's where you're watching this race here. So like and subscribe to the Racing Network if you want to check out our podcast vodcast. And also want to thank the good people at Porterfield Brakes for being the title sponsor of our Cal Club SCCA Divisional races, brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes. They sell brakes, and really good ones, and a bunch of other awesome stuff. Go check them out at porterfield-brakes.com. 11:45 to go, Tristan, and we are motoring towards our finish line here.
I'm still trying to figure out what happened to my brain. It's like I'm going to take my sunglasses off. I'm going to reset and see colors again. I don't know what was going on right there. Anyway, it's been a remarkably clean race. Not a lot to comment on. It's been very quiet here from the flaggers and whatnot. So nothing too exciting, I think, to call out at the moment. I mean, we do have the full 30-minute time. There's no reason for these guys to come in just yet. We are well past the halfway mark, as it were. So they're more than happy to just keep going and going.
Well, and with the temperatures and it's also possible that Brandon Drazy can just pull in and call it a day here, because I think he is the only car in E-production, and Gary Murph could do the same thing, and then it would be just a race between Richard James and James Bishop. Let's hope they don't do that. That will not give us much to talk about.
Could you imagine?
Yes, I can actually. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I've seen it happen.
I can't actually imagine that now that I think about it. But what happens if everybody just comes in, Brian? There's your question. Brandon Dreezy, by the way, just taking a nice cruise there through the bus stop. No hesitation. Have a nice drive. Love to see it.
That's right. That's right. So this is our final race of the first half of our season. We take a break in the summer here because the temperature today is 94 degrees. And typically drivers don't love racing in these temperatures, and it gets worse in June, July, and August. So the club out here has learned that if they hold races during that time, no one will show up, so they don't do it. We'll be back in October is our next set of races out here. 2 more races in the fall. We'll complete the Cal Club season, and still waiting on the new track. I think there is still a possibility that we might get out there for one of these final 2 races this year. I've not heard anything official in either direction. They haven't told me definitely no, and they certainly haven't told me definitely yes. So, but we're all hopeful. We cannot wait, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So,
yeah, I can't wait for it either. And I know it's been kind of something that we've been looking forward to, but it just hasn't quite manifested itself yet. But hopefully come November, when our break is over, we'll be out there. We'll get a watch. Keep in mind, Jack McKecham still not behind the wall. So I don't know at what point in time that they're going to say, hey, race is done.
Part of the problem is he might not have anybody who can push him, and they might not have a tow truck until after the race is over.
Oh, that would be unfortunate. That's just unfortunate.
So
it's possible. This is why we need a pit lane reporter.
I know, and if you want to be a pit lane reporter,
yeah, you can volunteer.
Come on out here. I've got the stuff to do it. We just need the human. You can give me a reach out on race announcer Brian at Gmail, or find me here at the racetrack, and we'll get you set up for the next race weekend. That'd be awesome.
James Bishop, by the way, number 17 right there, has taken a pit stop now of his own volition, so he'll go ahead and take it in. Our fastest lap so far of the race at 2:14.737. Gonna come in for a moment here so that the field is narrowing by inches, and that will be 1-7 done for the day. Brian.
Oh boy,
so coming in. So take James Bishop off your mark. Jack McKechnie not out there anymore, which leaves us with David Zink, Gary Murph, Richard James, Brandon Droz or Drazy. One of these days.
if you had James Bishop on your bingo card, you're not going to win this one.
No.
But Richard James has, I told you, it just takes one thing. And Richard James is now your class leader in STL.
Yeah, one STL not competing, the other two STLs out of the race. All Richard James needed to do was just keep going around the track. So here he is.
Yeah.
Dreezy still Drazy?
Drazy.
Oh my gosh, Drazy! I am in a mess right now.
I think it's Drazy.
Drazy still very much in the lead, though.
No one's ever corrected me
of that overall the overall race. But like you said, they don't award podium positions for overall finish.
That's right.
So it is merely a matter of pride. Keep in mind, after this, we will be taking a break. We will be back for our next race not long after that, and it is a good category. Should be a lot of fun. Group 4, the Formula cars, the P1 and 2, so prototypes in there as well. And it's a 16-car field, so a lot going on and a lot to watch in that group. Going to be very entertaining to see. Some of our fastest and kind of most interesting cars will be in that group. And then, of course, we'll have group number 5, which is our Spec Miatas. There's 13 of them out there today. Always a good race. Always very entertaining. So stick around with that. And finally, we'll wrap up with another smaller group. I believe that's group number 6, which, funny enough, has 6 cars in it. So we'll get a chance to see them strut their stuff out there as well. But 2 good races coming up after this. You don't want to go anywhere. You want to watch it. And we have about 6 minutes left in this one. Everybody running clean out there. And I wonder if we may see maybe 1 or 2 more of these cars, like you were saying, Brian, actually come in behind the wall here instead of finishing it out.
Well, and one of the issues is if drivers are not doing their pre-race weekend prep properly. We're not usually this hot this early in the summer. And it might just be that the heat's taking the toll and they've got enough laps in to be a finisher, and they're saying, you know what, we're done for today. We'll come out and fight again tomorrow. Tomorrow's supposed to be slightly cooler than today. Not sure what the situation, because STL cars typically are pretty stout cars. They're fairly stock.
Yeah.
So usually it's not mechanical problems. Definitely something with the McEachern car because we saw it going slowly. But Bishop, I'm not quite sure what the deal is there, especially since he turned the fastest race lap.
Well, as you were saying that, by the way, over the network radio, I heard that number 93, the FP, that's Gary Murph, has come into the pit lane, and his car is smoking quite bad.
Oh, boy.
So...
and there were 3.
Not looking too good. Kind of looking like an Agatha Christie murder mystery here at the moment. I don't know who the last one standing is going to be in this, what surprisingly turned into an endurance race for these cars. Wild times here.
Yeah.
Between me losing my mind and us losing cars off the track, I don't know what's going on.
There should be some rule that if there's less cars than there are laps, we just throw the checker or something. But no, they all paid for 30 minutes.
They did.
So they're going to get their 30 minutes in, and that's cool as can be. And this is the longest racetrack configuration that we have here this weekend. Yeah. We're using all of the long bits, and the bus stop adds a couple 100 yards to the lap on each end of it as well. And so this is the big track at Buttonwillow.
3.1 miles for those of you who are playing along at home.
3.1. Yeah, that's a good amount of miles. That's
a pretty long racetrack.
That's a 5K. Yeah, pretty much. For those of you watching in Europe and everywhere else where they use metric besides the United States, which is everywhere.
Yeah, right.
For everywhere else in the world, that's a 5K.
Anyway, temperature makes more sense. I will stand by that. But the other metric, yeah. Well, anyway, I still think it's easier to understand it's 97 degrees hot as opposed to it's like I don't know
30.
34 or something.
Right.
It just a 1 to 100 scale is just much more sensible. But the other stuff, okay.
Except that our scale doesn't start at 100; it starts at 32.
Yeah, that's right. Good point. On the tail end of it, I'm beyond understanding. Pretty sure we got to the moon with the feet, so it's all good.
Well put.
Yeah.
Well put.
We'll do it again.
That's right. We're gonna try again.
Here comes the number 98 car, David Zink, one of the few racers still out there. Best lap time for David. Credit to him. 225.034 on the mark.
Tires just came up to temperature.
Yeah, they just clocked in. White flag is being held here by the starters.
Not waved, but held.
Which here comes the wave.
Here
so I think we're on our last lap here for this group. So that'll be Brandon Drazy coming through.
And
there you go.
3.1 miles. And our 3 cars will take the checkered flag, and then we will move on to a short break, about a 10-minute break, so that our workers who are standing out in the heat can take a little load off and grab a cold drink and hydrate, maybe slather on some sunscreen. And what's that?
Yeah, drink. It's hot out there. I was out there very briefly, actually, earlier, and it was, woof. It sucks it right out of you. It's been a very wild pattern of weather, actually, here at the last couple Buttonwillow races, because January and February were wet and cold and gross. November was pouring with rain, if I remember correctly. One of them was pouring with rain. And then we've kind of transitioned into now hot. So God only knows what it's going to be like come around October time. Last October, if I remember correctly, it was absolutely scorching out here. So it really has been quite kind of over and under and all around when it comes to weather. And that obviously poses a challenge to drivers. So I will say it was actually very entertaining to see drivers handle rain and kind of inclement weather in that case. But I think they all prefer it this way. So, and understandably so.
Yes. And here comes Brandon Drazy through Phil Hill for the final time today. And not far behind him, I believe, is the Richard James car. Yep, that's Richard James coming at us. That is a Mazda MX-5 Cup car. And here comes our leader for the final time through the S's. That is that white car out there in the distance, and you will see him right now coming to our view race. Nice. There. Here he comes, and let's go to our main straight camera for the final time in this race. Chuck Phillips has the checkered flag in his hand. He will wave it shortly here. And here comes your leader onto the front straight. The flag is in the air, and it is being waved. Checkered flag is out. And our race winner is Brandon Drazy. I'm going to just go on a limb and say second place is going to be Richard James. Third place is going to be David Zink. Our 3 cars who started but did not finish. Although I will say that both cars are considered finishers because they have more than half the laps complete. So Gary Murph and James Bishop will be 4th and 5th finishers in this particular race. Jack McEachern did not complete a second race lap, so he will not be considered a finisher. Hopefully we can get that car put back together and come back out with us tomorrow.
Indeed. So
we got about a 10-minute break so our workers can, refresh a little bit here. And then we'll come back with 3 more races. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Buttonwillow Raceway Park for the Cal Club SCCA Divisional Races, brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes. They are our sponsor. We really appreciate everything they do for us. It is time for our, and I've got the wrong, it is not Spec Miata next. It's our Wings and Things. Let me get rid of this real fast. I've been teasing everyone all day with the wrong race.
Indeed.
Okay, there we go. Let's do our starting lineup here.
Sure, let's run our starting lineup from the back of the lineup. In 16th, number 3, Mike Bachman from San Jose, California. In 15th, number 123, Andy Chan from Harbor City, California. In 14th, number 11, Robert Levinson from Calabasas, California. In 13th, number 88, William Sturgeon from Ridgecrest, California. Alongside him, number 70, Richard Gray from Moore Park, California. In 11th, number 00, Alexander Kornfeld from New York, New York. In 10th place, number 12, Robert Kazin from San Ramon, California. In number 8th position, number 177, James Lawley from Halifax, Nova Scotia. In 6th, number 29, Christian Ockfish from Huntington Beach, California. In 5th, number 33, Dimitri Pistoliaco from Los Altos, California. In 4th, number 7, Joseph Moran from Laguna Hills, California. In 3rd, number 3, Larry Schnurr from San Jose, California. In 2nd, number 37, Jay Horak from Mesa, Arizona. And then starting you off in the lead, pole position, number 2, Nicole Havadra from Courtenay, British Columbia.
You know what I like about this group today?
Yes.
There's a bunch of names I've never heard of here
Yeah,
today.
it's a very different group.
So this is really cool that we've got some unusual names, not because their names are unusual, just they're new to us, which means we've got a bunch of drivers here that we don't normally get, and I think that's fantastic. And someone from Nova Scotia, that's a long toe.
I'm assuming it's a hometown, not necessarily
Where they live
home.
now. Oh, is that how that works?
Talk about the toe. We had a guy from Hawaii here the last time. So,
Man, that's a lot of rowing, man.
Yeah.
That is a row your tow
Driving one
truck.
of those cars from James Bond.
That's right.
So, talk
Right.
about a road trip.
There comes our field. They're right behind our pace car. Pace car driver this weekend is Gabe Estrada Sr. Nice to have him out here helping us out. And we're going to get ready to go racing here in just a second. You'll see our pace car off on the right there. It'll be on pit lane. That's to the right of the start stand. And once you see that, you'll see your drivers here heading onto our main straight. And it will be just a matter of time between then and when our starter, Tracy Kane, decides whether or not the field is in good enough order. And it does appear to seem that she likes. And there we go. Green flag is out. Here they come. This is my favorite group of cars, by the way.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, it's a great group.
I love the open wheel cars, and it is by far my favorite group.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where you look at the names and they're just all things I don't recognize. So that always is a bit more fun. I like that Andy Chan, number 123 car, the make of his car is just radical.
Yes.
Just radical.
Yes.
That's it. That's all you're gonna get. Ligiers, a lot of is it Ligier?
Ligier, yep.
Ligiers, a lot of Ligiers out there. Some Mazdas, Formula Mazda cars and Mazda Stars.
And I do get the sense we have a lot of Formula 4 and and a couple of Formula F3 cars here this weekend. Those are not what we normally get out here. So I'm guessing a lot of the new names have decided to come out here this weekend for these F3 and F4 cars. And there's a lot of folks, and we don't get many of those. That's really pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is really cool. I mean, we've actually got quite a big grid for it, and they have proper racing formation here. And, of course, these guys go fast, right? Nicole Havadra,
Havadra.
Havadra. All right, Havadra. Her best time in qualifying was 147.025. So, I mean, that's wicked fast for a 3.1 mile track out here. So that's something to keep an eye on right there, and hopefully I think is going to build up to an interesting race here amongst these drivers, and we'll see what they can what they can show us. Especially like you said, some of these people we've not heard of before. It's a fun opportunity to watch what they can do.
Well, and these are our fastest cars here this weekend. It's this group, and then our final group of the day is our fastest sedan cars or sports cars. So that's what you're catching here is this fast group of cars. You're going to see our leaders here now come out of Sunrise. So this is the exit of our first corner. There was a big puff of dust at the last lap here. Who I don't know which driver it was, but they were able to keep it together and keep it on the racetrack, or at least get back on the racetrack.
Somebody absolutely lit up coming down the straightaway right there and shot past at least two other people. I don't know who it was. They were booking hell for leather, though. Hopefully I'll be able to get a confirmation of who they were. I can see what color they were. I just don't know who the driver is.
Here is our leaders now heading towards Phil Hill for the second time here. About 27 minutes left in this race. Nicole Havardra is still our race leader. Opening up a little bit of a gap there. It looks like it's going to be about two seconds between Havardra and Jay Horak here. This little sneaky snake section here is really fun for the drivers, and it's hard to tell from this camera, but they're climbing up a pretty decent hill here. The only elevation change here at Buttonwillow,
Yeah.
And this is kind of right at the top of that hill there as they're coming into our screen.
It's a difficult turn, though. I mean, it is. It is the only, I would say, significant elevation change, but it is dramatic for a lot of drivers. And that coming off of that downward corner sort of into the straightaway does tend to really help you pick up speed. And we tend to see a lot of kind of passing efforts up there and all sorts of other chicanery going on. Nicole Havardra still in the lead right here, quite handily so at the moment, being chased by Jay Horak by about 1.4 seconds behind as the rest of the field now comes blazing through. And making good pace there across the board is this entire group. There's the William Sturgeon car. That was the one that blasted past. I believe it was Robert Kazin and Andy Chan earlier. So a little bit of shuffling here and there amongst the group, and everything, I think, remaining relatively the same out there. Worth pointing out, Larry Schnurr, who's one of the other F3 drivers here at the top of the group, he's a good 12 seconds behind Jay Horak. So Horak and Nicole Havardra are running a bit of a race of their own right now in that lead position.
Yeah, and if you mentioned this, I apologize, but Havardra just went purple with a 1:29.233 fastest lap of the day. So, and everybody's green too. So if you look at the pylon there, all those times in green means that these cars on their last lap just ran their best lap. So tires still getting some heat in them. There's going to come a point in time with our temperatures, which are now, if I pull up my little thermometer here, the temperatures are now 93 degrees. The heat, the tire factor is going to start to tail off here because they will start to get really, really slick here at some point in time. Not yet. We're still really early in this race, but in the last half of this race, it could be a little spicy here.
I tell you, you wouldn't know it up in the booth. It's cold.
Oh, I know. Don't tell anybody. Actually, we should tell everybody so we get more announcers.
Yeah,
it is really
right.
cold.
It's very
climate
cold
controlled here.
Almost too cold.
No.
I say that, but the minute you turn down the cold, it'd be hot again.
Right, exactly. So
it's the eternal trap. The eternal trap. The gap between Nicole Havardra and Jay Horak has opened up to about 2.3 seconds right there. Joseph Moran now in the third place stop. Got around Larry Schnurr, but still 12.6 seconds between him and the top two. Larry Schnurr has dropped way back here. CJ Ray going through a passing attempt there down through the straight. Came up hard on Pistoliaco, but could not get around him just yet. We'll see if he'll confirm it on the second pass. It could entirely be the case as you take a look towards your Sunrise camera right there. Sunrise, again, very popular turn for the passes, so it's not unexpected to see some of these drivers trying to make something happen as they come out of the straights, but we'll swap over to Phil Hill right there. Is that your leaders?
Ooh, big puff of dust. Let me see if I can get it out. No, I don't have a camera. Someone went off really big at the exit of Grapevine. Oh, and now that car's now back on the racetrack So it was a big off. We'll get a number next time by. I think it's going to be too fast for my little.
Oh, he's got his spotter scope out. That was Larry Schnurr, I'm pretty sure. 03 blue.
Okay.
It could have also been potentially Mike Bachman, but I'm getting the confirmation now on the network. It was the 03 blue car of Larry Schnurr.
And we were watching a little 3-car battle there as the cars went through it just a minute ago. That 3-car battle is Dimitri Pistiolacco, followed by C.J. Ray and James Lawley, all within a half a second of each other. So there's a couple little battles going on the racetrack right now, not for position in class or overall, but it is kind of cool to see. I think I probably missed that car that went off here as they came up through Phil Hill. We'll catch him here in a second.
Well, Nicole Vadra, by the way, has done another fast lap, a 149.122, so tacking on some more speed there. And sure enough, you can see Larry Schnurr on your screen on the pylon, just dropping. 5 places dropped deep in this race. That's unfortunate right there for the other Formula 3 driver. Won't be keeping up with his competitors. Joseph Moran still holding on to that third place spot, and then Christian Akpish has jumped up here as well. So leveling things out right there across the board. And hopefully everybody can avoid kind of the big offs yet again. You hate to see it with these super fast cars as well. And then getting back on the track, it's all a little touch and go, just given the relative speeds of the drivers out there.
Well, and with these sticky, slick tires and the temperatures that we have, when you do go off big like that, it takes several laps, or maybe not several laps, but certainly several corners to clean off those tires to get that gription back. And without the grip, there ain't much you can do in these little formula cars.
No, and that's a bit of an issue too as well. And I imagine if I was in the shoes of Larry Schnurr, he was probably trying to fight back just a little bit to catch up with Joseph Moran and pushing it a little bit hard. And I did mention you come down out of that elevation over there on the Grapevine, and you just kind of and you have a tendency to go a little bit faster than you would think. I obviously haven't done this in a race car, but even if you're out there in your own vehicle,
right,
you can feel that pull coming down out of that turn.
I misspoke earlier. I said that the only elevation on this racetrack is Phil Hill, but now that you mention it, it is a bit of an elevation going up into Grapevine. I don't
know why I did that. You can't see that, but it goes. Whoop.
Yes, Tristan just gave the international symbol for elevation change.
Yeah, elevation change.
And then as you come out of Grapevine, the camber of the corner just slightly goes off camber and kind of pushes you toward the dirt. And if you're not ready for it or you're a little out of position, that's how an off like that happens. Yeah. So
that's exactly, I think, what happened right there to Schnurr as well. Now, there is another car that's off the track. We don't have confirmation of who it is. It's entirely possible, though, just based on what I'm seeing on the screen, that it is Jay Horak, who was actually in that second place spot. He went off the track and got basically stuck and cannot get out. And you can actually see the tow truck belting hell for leather over there. Well, you can't maybe see it on your screens, but we can see it from the tower to hopefully go get him unstuck. It's a little bit of a difficult operation, I must admit, at the moment, because there are some Formula cars coming in rather fast on the back of that tow truck. So, well, this is a little bit of excitement I didn't expect today. Yeah, there you go. You can see the tow truck has entered the race, and here come the Formula cars.
Yep. So when this happens, the flaggers will display a white flag to the cars coming up on the tow truck so that they know there is a rescue vehicle on the racetrack. This is pretty common situation.
It is.
And that white flag is the warning that so you don't, obviously you'd see a big tow truck in front of you, but you realize that there's something slower here. And I'm going to see if I can figure out. I'm going to drop the pylon here to see if maybe I can see what's going on with that.
It all has to do too with well, unfortunately, no, I don't.
Yeah, no, it doesn't help.
We don't
us.
really get it. We don't really get a view. Of course, whatever's happened has happened just outside of our camera network's view. Good little pass right there coming down through the gut of things, though. I'm not sure who that is. I want to say maybe it was CJ Ray who was making something happen right there. It might have actually been a little bit higher up. It might have been Joseph Moran, but it's getting a little confusing out there on the track in terms of who's where. It's getting a little jumbled now, so it's a little difficult to tell.
So what's not difficult to tell is that Nicole Havadra has a 17-second lead right now over the second-place car. The car that was giving her some racing action here has dropped back, and I'm trying to figure out which car that was. And it's Jay Horak. That's probably the car they're going to fetch right now, right? Yeah, because he has dropped way
I think
back.
it was Jay Horak who was able to get back on the track, and I think just came past the starting stand.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate for him because he was in a solid second-place position.
Oh, yeah.
With Joe Moran. It was still
12-second gap between him and Jay Moran at the top of the list. So, I mean, that's just unfortunate for Horak right there. And, I mean, he's 14 places dropped, so I think that's your not your end of your race day per se. I mean, he can certainly battle back through some of those spots, and he might even battle back to the point where he can, be the overall F3 second place, which is what he'd be aiming for. But he would have to essentially fight his way up the entire grid to get to a position where he could get around Larry Schnurr. So with about 16, let's say 15 minutes there to go, maybe a little bit under that, it's certainly a tall order there for Jay Horak, and you'll feel bad for him. Hate to see it.
And here comes our gaggle of F3, F4, FX. There's one of our prototype cars there coming up here through Phil Hill. You could still see, by the way, if you were watching our Super Tour back here in February, off to the left, right next to our scoring pylon there, that is still standing water. There's lots of pondage still here on the racetrack, and that is what you're seeing here on this particular camera.
Yeah, that's something that we've noticed multiple times out there. Looks like there's another stall here as well, so it's been a bit rough here for the Formula cars. Looks like that might be number 177. So that's James Lawley, one of our F4 cars. He has now spun and been kind of held up on the edge of the track. So they're going to have to go and send somebody out there to fetch him. So who's next? We had very clean races all morning, Brian, and then this one has been a bit of a kerfuffle.
Well, you've got a lot.
Afternoon, I guess I should say.
Comparatively more cars on this particular race group. And a lot of different classes too. A lot of them are pretty close, but you never know. And there might be different experience levels as well, which could lead to this. So,
true.
We're here at the halfway point. Why don't you give us a full field rundown here, and we will get that in for everybody.
All right, here we go. Your full field rundown starting at the top. In first place overall, number 2, Nicole Havadra. In second place, number 7, Joseph Moran. In third place, number 29, Christian Ockfish. In fourth place, number 33, Dimitri Pistoliaco. In fifth, number 3, Larry Schnurr. In sixth, number 75, CJ Ray. In seventh, number 63, Lars Jensen. In eighth, number 00, Alexander Kornfeld, followed by William Sturgeon, Richard Gray, Robert Kazin, James Lawley, Andy Chan, Robert Levinson, Jay Horak, and last but certainly not least, Mike Bachman. And that is your mid-race full field rundown brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast here on the Racing Network. And there you go, Brian.
There we go. And I'd like to let everybody know that the Cal Club SCCA Divisional races here brought to you by PorterfieldRacingBrakes.com. They are our presenting sponsor. We would not be here this weekend without their help. If you need some brakes or some other stuff for your race car, they got a lot of tools for working on your car. They've got some pit gear. Obviously, everything involved with brakes they have as well. Check them out, Porterfield-Brakes.com, and they ship all over the country. So give them a shot if you need something.
Looks like there's another problem out there. I'm not sure which car it is. All I heard over the radio was, "Look out, he's doing donuts."
Oh boy.
I think I can see a dust cloud on the straightaway, so maybe we'll take a look and see if that's what was going on over there. I see the dust still blowing out here, but no idea who it was or what the circumstances of the aforementioned donuts were. All I heard was they're doing donuts. So
Yes. 13 minutes to go, just less than 13. So still a lot of action here. Joe Moran, I'm waiting for him to run past here, is now 21.3 seconds back from Nicole Havadra, who has our fast lap of the day at a 1:49.122, 1 minute 49 seconds, and 122 one-thousandths of a second. Larry Schnurr just went green. That means his fastest lap of the day with a 1:52.3. And William Sturgeon, his fast lap of the day with a 2 minutes and 0.413 lap.
Well, it sounds like it was number 00, Alexander Kornfeld, who span off right there and suffered maybe a mechanical just at the lead into the straightaway. So I don't know if we'll necessarily see that on our cameras here or not, but they're looking to get a tow there to get him out of the position. Unfortunate there. It's the second kind of a little bit of an issue Alexander Kornfeld had, so maybe something just a little loose right there in the car, whatever it is. Nobody in serious trouble at the moment. Jay Horak, by the way, battling up now, has claimed a number of places, sitting overall in 11th there with Alexander Kornfeld dropping out. Looks like the number 00's car is moving under his own speed, slowly but surely, maybe going in for the pit lane. As you can see, the tow truck kind of moved into position, looming into position right there, for lack of a better term. But it does not look like they'll need it.
Yeah, which is good news.
It is.
So, so it's getting back into its normal standby post.
Stocking its spray out there on the
Exactly. Exactly.
You
So
never know when you're going to need it.
We have a car that's entered the pit lane here. That's looks like it's James Lawley, and tow truck's back home. So hopefully it will not be. We'll not have to talk about the tow truck anymore for the next 10 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah, hopefully not. Like I said, it's natural prey out there. It's gotta help. It just wants to help.
That's right. And we have some of the best emergency services guys in the business.
They are very professional, and they do a great job. Them, our flaggers, all of our staff out here at Buttonwillow is top-notch for the volunteer crew that they are. They do a spectacular job.
And if you notice, I shouldn't say it. I won't say it. I'll talk about it maybe tomorrow.
Okay.
We've had a lot of things going on, and we've not had to stop racing. So
yeah, no, it's very true. I mean, we've done a very good job of it's managed very well, and that has always been one of the great defining traits here of the SCCA out at Buttonwillow, is a clean operation, well orchestrated operation, and it helps keep these races flowing smoothly.
To quote an insurance commercial, they know a lot because they've seen a lot.
They know a lot because they've seen a lot. Exactly. So there you go.
I have not had a chance to check our YouTube chat yet. Let me get to that and see if we've got any chatters. Dennis Marshall, have all the lakes dried up? No.
Not all of them.
Brian Straczynski, who watches so much SCCA racing, by the way. Brian is a regular watcher of our podcast. I've seen him at pretty much every Super Tour. How you doing, Brian? Yes, it does look a bit different here than it did during Super Tour. No question at all. If you're watching at home and you're rooting on a particular driver, put it in the chat. We'd be happy to give you a shout out here. And yeah, we're enjoying all of that as well. So do that.
Looks like Robert Levinson has come into the pit lane here. Not behind the wall, just into the pit. And it just seems like every driver we have now back out on the track Never mind, I spoke too soon. Robert Levinson coming in behind the wall. So that'll be the end of the day for the S2 car, the only S2 on the track. And it'll just be back to focusing across the board. Nicole Havadra is well in the lead right here, as you can probably tell by her time, 16.7 seconds ahead of Joseph Moran. So I don't think we're going to be seeing anyone catching up just there. Do keep in mind, though, Dimitri Pistoliako is actually quite close on the back here of Christian Akpish, so that's something to keep an eye on. As Jay Horak continues to climb down in the order, now in 10th overall, and slowly but surely battling his way back to the kind of premier position he had earlier on in the race.
Yeah, I don't imagine he's going to get back into second place, but from going from first to last to be back up to 10th is pretty impressive. So
he's done a good job of it. And we've seen he's the second driver we've seen today who had a little bit of misfortune and has battled back pretty well. And I mean, he's still got 7 minutes left to run, so I think we're going to continue to see him climb. William Sturgeon there coming in, keeping an eye out for that number 37 car and see what Jay Horak can do with his relative position overall amongst these teams. Joseph Moran is holding his line very well in second place right now, so he's got to be quite happy with the way things are going. And here comes, or should be coming, your next set of cars across the line in not too distant future. Things have gotten a little jumbled, honestly, after some off and ons and some not toes and what have you. So it is a little bit harder to keep track of everything.
And don't go away, folks. After this race, our next group up is our Spec Miata group, always entertaining. And then our final group of the day is our GT cars. And that's always also a fun group as well. Our fastest sedan and sports car group out here. So
should be a nice race to end things off. Not going to be too intense. Just going to be a nice. Let's see who can go fastest, which is always fun.
You've just cursed the entire race group.
Christian Akpish there holding off Dimitri Pistoliako, 1.1 versus 16.8 right there between the two of them, and 1.1 gap, not insurmountable at all with 6 minutes left on the clock, considering they're both averaging around 1.5 seconds, 157, I should say, overall timing. So they are very close to one another in this mix. CJ Ray, Lars Jensen, Richard Gray, and Andy Chan all putting in their best time on that last map. So building up speed, and unfortunately for CJ Ray, despite that boost of speed, still a good 14.6 seconds behind Dimitri Pistoliako, so he can't get involved in that that competition that's developing between Akpish and Pistoliako there for 4th overall.
5:22 left, which means with these groups, that's probably 2.5, maybe 3 laps as we get into the closing moments. And this is the point in time where Nicole Havadra is just like, all I got to do is keep it between the white lines. Stay off the curbs, stay off the dust. There's no reason to push the car and hang the back end out and get a little and kick up the dust. And just hit your marks, hit your braking points, and get these last 2 laps done, and go get yourself a Gatorade. That's all she should be thinking about. And she's been in this position before, so there's no question that she's got the goods here to get this thing done and bring home the top step on the podium at F3. And Joe Moran is also the second place car in P1. And the next P1 car in this race is, well, there are no P1 cars in this race, so he's got nothing that he has to push real hard for. He's not going to catch Havadra, and so just got to do his thing. And then it's another 27 seconds back to the third place car. So all these guys and gals got to do is just stay the course for another 4 minutes, and they're all going to take home some trophies.
Just got to race it clean. That's it. That's all you have to do.
That's right.
And this has been a difficult race for that. So hopefully everybody kind of just sticks to their guns, so to speak, and doesn't put anything out of line. I mean, still a little bit of like fighting here. Pistoliako could easily, I think, get around Akpish given the time remaining.
Right.
But, as you look across the rest of the lineup right here, the gaps are pretty wide. Everybody's kind of evened out and is sort of running their own race at this point in time. So we'll kind of keep an eye on the generalized development.
Right. Our time here, by the way, is also not official race time, so it might be
No,
off
it is
by a
not.
couple of seconds. And I actually started the clock a little, about 5 seconds late. So,
You're-
but it's really close.
You're
Generally
usually
speaking.
quite close.
Yeah. So
It's a good guideline for determining kind of where we are in the overall course of this. And I think it's relatively safe to say there's going to be 1, maybe 2 laps left. I'd be surprised, honestly. I don't know. I think there's got to be 2.
yeah.
Just given the way that this has been going. But we are close enough where you could honestly just be like, oh, no, we're just going to do 1 more. But I haven't heard the call for white come through the radio, so I'm assuming they're going to go for at least 2 if they don't have more to show out
Right.
there.
So if you like what you're seeing, if you think you'd have fun coming out here and joining us, if you're in SoCal, check out calclub.com. If you're elsewhere around the country, it's SCCA.com. They will connect you up with your local region. And look who just went. Oh, no, didn't just go purple. I'm sorry. Those are our websites there at the bottom of the page. So check them out, and we'd love to have you come out, either become a participant as a driver or a crew member, or we have tons of volunteer positions. So come on out and join us. calclub.com, SCCA.com.
Indeed, that is the case.
2 minutes to go. The white flag should be coming out, and I see it in Tracy Kane's hand. She's just waiting for the leader.
There's your official last lap announcement.
Yep.
So
Last lap has begun. There is Nicole Havadra, just came through our screen, and we will catch her here as well. It's this red and white car that just came through. We'll follow her around on her final lap here. Spec Miata is our next group, so they're going to be fun. Don't leave us for that one, folks.
always an entertaining group to spec Miatas. Really, genuinely, some good old-fashioned competitors right there. They fight hard in their grouping, and they play hard. They're good friends. It's worth watching. Don't go anywhere for that. I'm excited to see what they can do with a more serious competition. A little bit smaller field than usual in the Spec Miatas, but still, I think enough that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with out there on the track. I say that, and this race has actually been quite entertaining. One of our more lively ones here today, and you had cars in, out, well about. But everybody, I think, has pretty much kind of gotten back into it. As I look, Robert Levinson, the only one who was out permanently of this group. All the others got back out and kept racing. So you got to admire the wherewithal right there. Obviously dropping some massive laps, but you got to admire it nonetheless. And it's been a pleasure to watch. And I do want to point out, we talked about it, Larry Schnurr has climbed all the way back to third place here on this last lap.
Wow.
An impressive achievement for Larry Schnurr, considering he dropped to 16th in this race.
Yep, here comes our checkered flag. It's going to be in the air in just a second. And your race winner is going to be Nicole Havadra.
Excellent, well-run race from Nicole Havadra. Did not a foot out of line that entire time, all while maintaining a really good pace as well. The fastest car by a country mile here in the group as well. So just well done. But of course, Larry Schnurr has to be given his credit for managing to battle back to his starting position when he was so far down. And honestly, Joseph Moran and Christian Ockpish, who are both in this mixture, Joseph Moran did a great job of getting that 2-spot climb to second and holding on to it. And the same can be said of Christian Ockpish taking up the 4th place spot and holding on to that.
All right, let's run through the finishing order here, and then we will take a break. I think there might be a couple of cleanups that we're going to have to stop
There's
for.
definitely going to be a
But we'll do that. Your race winner, Nicole Havadra, followed by Joe Moran, your P1 race winner. And third place, third overall, second place in F3 is Larry Schnurr. Then you've got your FX winner. He finished 4th overall. That's Christian Ockpish. Dimitri Pistiolacco is your first place car in F4, finishing 5th overall. Then you've got CJ Ray, Lars Jensen, William Sturgeon, Richard Gray, and Jay Horak They run out the top 10, followed by Alexander Kornfeld, Robert Kazan, Andy Chan, Mike Bachman, James Lawley. That's your top 15. And your first place car in S2 completing 8 laps of the 16, which means even though he came off the racetrack, he's still going to be your race winner in S2. That's Sports 2000, Robert Levinson. All right, let's take a quick break and catch our breath. And we will be back in just a few minutes with our Spec Miata race. Stay with us, everybody. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Cal Club, SCCA, Divisional Races, brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brake Pads. They are our title sponsor for the whole season, and we thank them so much. We are at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. We're getting ready for our 5th of 6 races this weekend. It is a big one, folks. Spec Miata and Spec MX-5 and SMT. Going to have 13 cars, Tristan, and let's do our starting order.
Yeah, we've got a big race group here for the Spec Miatas, 13. Not as big as it sometimes is, but certainly an interesting group and always fun to watch. Let's start with your 13th place position overall. That's number 3, Red Messenger from Bedford, New York. In 12th place, number 153, James Cook from Bakersfield, California. In 11th place, number 69, Joseph Bogert from Chandler, Arizona. In 10th, number 93, Jorge Diaz from Cardiff by the Sea, California. In 9th, number 38, Carl Yonk from El Cajon, California. In 7th, number 80, Giorgio Pirangi from Agora Hills, California. I missed 8th there. That's number 74, Gabriel Estrada Jr. from El Cajon, California. In 6th, number 7, that's a confusing one, Alan Lucart IV from Corona, California. In 5th, number 10th, Rocco Ruzic from Humble, Texas. In 4th, number 98, David Varco from Bonita, California. In 3rd, number 35, Evan Jacobs from Encino, California. In 2nd, number 2, there we go, for Austin Varco from Bonita, California. And then leading it all off, number 89, Clement Lee from San Diego, California.
So Clement Lee, Evan Jacobs, and Austin Varco, and David Varco for that matter, are 4 guys who are always up front causing havoc with each other. It's always fun to watch. Those are our fast hot shoes here in Spec Miata. Rocco Ruzic's also often up there, Alan Lucart IV as well. And of course, my favorite name, Giorgio Pirangi. I gotta love those Italians who are here racing Mazdas. All right, here comes your whole field here up Phil Hill. Next time by, they're going to get themselves a green flag if all goes well.
Hopefully, and then we can get started on this race.
Yep. So interesting in this race weekend, because all these drivers talk to each other all the time, and, it costs a lot of money to go racing. They've all decided this weekend to not use fresh tires this weekend.
Ooh.
So everybody started the weekend on 2 or 3 heat cycle tires. Shouldn't be a big deal today, but by the end of tomorrow's race, there's going to be some slippery race cars out there. So you want to tune in tomorrow and watch our feed tomorrow, because it is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it should be very interesting there amongst the Spec Miatas to see how that goes. Obviously, going to be in old tires here for this section of the race as well. So that in and of itself is something that's going to be interesting to see. The lights are out on the pace car. They are coming up here through the S's. We should, I think, be seeing this kick off shortly, and some competition to be had here among this group. That's for sure. And it'll be a fast-paced race, 30 minutes in length. But these guys, they don't hold back when they're out here. Sometimes they deliver very clean races, and sometimes, Brian, it gets very, very catastrophic out there.
Well, we're going to hope not for catastrophic. "30 minutes to go. Here comes our drivers right into our field of view. Look at that go. 17 cars all barreling down towards our first corner here. And this is the camera, folks. If you see a big puff of dust, that means they all didn't make it through. But look at that. Looks nice and clean to me.
A tight pack, honestly. They came across that line, and they were very close to one another, very bunched up, 3 abreast at times, especially in the front rank. They were very close to one another. We'll see if that holds as they go around here. Or whether things start to even out a little bit. Definitely maintaining that pack formation, a good chain there as they come up and down through the grapevine. And we'll see if certain members of this start to pull forward and form their own group. That's usually kind of what happens here. Though in the Spec Miata case, sometimes that group is quite big. We have actually seen in the past them manage to maintain like a group of 5 or so at the start of the track. Down into the dust stop, by the way, a fair amount of smoke being kicked up right there. Again, they take that turn very wide coming up and out of the bus stop. Nobody's quite bit it there just yet, but you do get the sense every time they go past it, they are chewing up some dirt, and it is always a little nerve-wracking.
Bit it. That's a technical announcer term.
Yeah, that's an apt description.
Here they come, a whole bunch of Miatas. One straggler. I'm not quite sure how that one got caught out, but we will figure out who that is in just a bit. There is the whole pack out there in the distance heading into our Star Mazda turn. Big sweeping right-hander. And once they come through that, they have our S's. And that camera here, we're basically on the exit of the S's is what we're seeing here. And we will find out who our race leader is. That looks to me like it could be Evan Jacobs, who has come to an early lead here. But we'll know in a second once all of our cars head down the main straight and click the timing lights for the first time, or the timing sensor if nothing else. Here they come across the line. And your race leader is Clement Lee, followed by Austin Varco, David Varco, Rocco Ruzick, Evan Jacobs, Giorgio Piriangeli, Gabe Estrada Jr., Ren Messenger, Alan Lukert, and Carl Yonk. That's your top 10.
That is the top 10 right there. Clement Lee, he came through at a blistering pace, 220 on the board here. This is fast for a 3-mile track for the Spec Miatas. But the gaps in this group, not big at all. The largest gap in the top 10, for reference, is 0.8 of a second.
And there it looked like for a second there was an attempt to pass for the lead up front there. But whoever it was took discretion being the better part of valor, backed out to let them go single file through Cotton Corners. And it is only a little bit of puff of dust as well. Actually, there's a big puff of dust there at the exit of Grapevine.
Uh-oh.
But so far, it looks like most of the cars have gotten through that just fine.
Everybody, it looked like, stayed on. No big issues.
And I think that's our straggler. I don't think that was the one that went off. So that straggler. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I said that straggler looks like it's James Cook.
Ah. There was a little bit of side-to-side contact with Gabriel Estrada Jr. and I want to say the number 3 car of Red Messenger up towards the Grapevine corner, but it doesn't sound like anything particularly bad happened. Just a little bit of back and forth right there heading into the Grapevine. And hey, that's to be expected, Ryan, right? We said competitive group. You should expect these kind of things to go down.
Absolutely. I want to say hi to Brendan Kasmerick in the chat. Brandon is the guy responsible for bringing us the Super Tour coverage. And I work with him on the Super Tours, and great guy, and he's the guy who owns Driver's Eye Live and does a great job with that, and he's checking out our stuff this weekend. So thank you, Brendan. Good to see you there. There's a look at all that dust out there. Somebody went off.
Ooh, yeah, they did.
As I've learned, though, here over the years, the amount of dust is not necessarily commensurate with the size of the off.
Yeah.
You can put one wheel off in just the right spot, and it looks like calamity happened, and they just keep going.
It is sometimes a bit deceiving because there is so much dust. In that specific circumstance, I think it was maybe, and I'll get it confirmed over, David Mitchell may have just bumped into someone, very gentle side to side right there, which could have explained a little bit of an overreaction, course correction, what have you. Could have explained all that dust up that we saw right there.
Second place car is number 2, Austin Varco. He has autism, and he is out here racing with us every weekend, one of our best drivers in Spec Miata. And he is using his racing as a way to shine a light on people with autism and all that they can do. And he's been doing events at some races, and this is an event weekend for him. He has approximately 200 people coming out here today, families and kids with autism and their families. And they're out here to see the cars and hang out with all of the drivers. And they're going to do an autograph session and have free food. And they're going to get a chance to do a parade lap on the track here after all the racing is done. And all this put together as a fundraiser for the Kern Autism Network. Kern County is where Buttonwillow is here. And just a really awesome event. The families don't pay a thing to come, and they raise a little money for the Autism Network, the Kern Autism Network. And I just want to give a big shout out to Austin for putting all that together.
Well deserved as well. He does he's done a wonderful job with that charity before. He had the Halloween event back in October. I know that
And he's all over. He took his car to Dodger Stadium for Fan Fest and was out there showing kids the car and talking about his how he races with autism. So it's really a great thing that he does.
Yeah.
And it's not just here at the racetrack. He's doing this all year round. And his sponsor is Special Needs Coffee.
Right.
And they run a coffee truck, and the people who run the coffee truck all have autism.
Yeah. And you can see if you ever are out here at Buttonwillow, I think he's got it plastered on the side of his car. It's nice to see. And I just saw it as he came by right here. He might actually be going for a pass here, speaking of Austin Varco. Instead, no, he'll just tuck in behind the second place car, which is Rocco Ruzick in the number 10. Austin Varco, as you were saying, very talented racer as well. Knows what he's doing, and plays it very, very well. And something that tends to happen with these spec Miatas, much like with our spec racer Fords, is that they draft off one another. They play very tight for a while, and then they just look for an opportunity to kind of explosively go. And you'll actually see it on your screen right there as those cars come down the long turn. You can just sort of make them out how close they all are to one another, because they're all kind of going off one another's drift, as it were, looking for that kind of slingshot opportunity. Now, all our races today have been very heavily focused on Sunrise, though we have seen some passes kind of around Phil Hill. So all things to keep an eye on here. We're just watching them come out of the bus stop, and yeah, you do have to be extra careful in that bus stop. And some of our drivers, I think, struggle with it a little bit more than others, where you come down too hard through that last turn coming up out of the bus stop, Brian, and you hit up a bunch of dust. And what ends up happening is all that dust that you hit up goes straight back into the windshield of the guy behind you. And I just saw, as they came through here not that long ago, one of these spec Miatas, I don't know who it was, but just based on guesswork, I would say it might have been Giorgio Perangielli, got a big cloud of dust in, or it was Alan Lucart, and they just kicked out way to the side of that turn, and you lose speed. But you kind of have no choice, because for half a second to a second, you can't see anything. So it's definitely a difficult prospect. I love when this bus stop is part of this configuration. I think it makes it a very interesting track.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another element, and we say part of this configuration. If you're new to watching races here at Buttonwillow, there are 26 track configurations, and each one of them can be run either clockwise or counterclockwise. So there are easily 50 different ways we can run this racetrack. There's a big puff of dust there out in the distance. One of your leaders hung it out there. I'm not quite sure which one, but you still have basically a pack of 5 cars all trying to win this thing. And 20 minutes and 30 seconds left in the whole race. Lots of time. Your leader is now Rocco Ruzick. He's moved in. Clement Lee second, Austin Varco third. Austin's dad, David, is in fourth in the 98 car, followed by Evan Jacobs. That's your top 5.
And a very good example right there on that big dust cloud of what you were talking about earlier, which is sometimes you can kick up so much dust, and it doesn't have any material effect on the way that the race is going. And again, that's kind of what I was talking about down there in the bus stop turn. It looks worse than it is, unless you're the driver behind you, in which cases it's not so great. But anyway, taking a look here at the field, and still, I mean, to give credit, this is a close group. It really is. In the top 5 cars, down to about Giorgio Perangielli, who's currently running in 6th, but from Evan Jacobs upward, the gap in between these drivers is about, the biggest one is 0.394 of a second. So that group of 5 that's sitting at the top here is maintaining a tight formation throughout most of this race. And again, very true to form here for the Spec Miatas to be very bunched up in a couple of different groups. And actually, if you look a little deeper in the lineup, you'll see that between David Mitchell and I want to say Jorge Diaz, again, not a big gap at all. 0.68 seconds is all that it takes between those two. So It's very much a competitive race, and I'm just watching Rocco Ruzick, Clement Lee, Austin Varco, seeing what they can do and how they can go about it. Obviously, Austin Varco does have a benefit too. He's got David Varco out there with him, and they can play off one another a little.
Yeah, I'm
bit.
not quite sure that's so much of
I
a
was just
benefit.
gonna say, sometimes it does happen. Sometimes though, it is not always the case, and they are quite competitive against
Yes.
one another.
Absolutely. So,
I have seen them help each other before.
Yes,
though.
that is
They
true.
do it.
that is true. So, and your leaders now, this pack of 5 back on the main straight here. 18 minutes and 30 seconds to go. One of them puts a wheel off every time coming out of that section there and onto the main straight. The first 2 cars of Ruzick and Lee working really well together. They've opened up a 0.6 of a second gap over Austin Varco. That doesn't sound like much, but if they continue to work together, Austin Varco's kind of in no man's land there. Nobody behind him to help, and he's not close enough to the cars in front of him. What he really needs to do is let Evan Jacobs come up and work with him. Now, Evan Jacobs and Austin Varco, they work together at the Porsche driving experience, so they're friends off the track. On the track, you have to be friends to a certain extent, especially when you need some help, and that might be what is going to happen here. He'll need to slow down maybe just a little bit to let Evan Jacobs to catch up, and then the 2 of them can work together to catch the leaders.
It's worth pointing out, too, that there is a bit of wind out there right now. It's not really going to probably impact these cars, but it is just another factor in the mess that you have to keep a track of. Austin Varco bit off a not insignificant portion of dust right there as he came down through the dog leg. Or I'm sorry, not the dog leg, the bus stop. So you see actually all the other drivers there kind of making their way through that. To go back to what you were saying about Evan Jacobs and Austin Varco, they do tend to work together. It wouldn't surprise me, and actually you can see it on your screen. It looks like they're starting to pal up there just a little bit as kind of an answer to Ruzick and Lee, and whether or not that's going to enable one or both of them to kind of steal those lead spots is always something that I think is quite interesting in racing, to watch how people, without radio communication, without anything like that you would have in, your big league racing, right? They're all kind of keeping it very informal, but they do make it work.
Yeah, and they're not teammates, so they wouldn't share a radio channel. But sometimes,
right.
Some of these racers do that. And but right now, Clement Lee and Rocco Ruzick are doing exactly what they should be doing here, working together, trying to extend their lead, and it appears to be working. Next time by, it's the lead was 0.6 of a second this first time. Let's see what it is now. It is now 2.2 seconds, and Clement Lee just went purple with a fast lap for the race of 2:14.6.
Keep in mind, too, I mean, as much as Rocco Ruzick and Clement Lee are working together, there is a sort of inevitability here that Clement Lee will attempt somewhere in this race. Clement Lee will attempt to pass. Whether that's going to happen earlier or later, my gut instinct would say that it happens a little bit closer to the tail end of the race, but it almost feels like a given that it will happen. And then, Austin Varco and Evan Jacobs, okay, well, that situation could come around for them as well. But, you got to make up a 2.256 gap. That's, again, in a very competitive field, that's a not insignificant amount of time there that you're leaving a driver to make up, even if you do have about 50 minutes here on the clock.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of discipline to say, I don't need to lead this race. Because what drivers want to do is they want to lead races. They want to be the car up front. They want to be the ones that we're talking about because they're the race leader. But the smartest thing to do right now, as long as your car doesn't overheat these temperatures, is stay right there behind Rocco Ruzick and get to the end. The good news is Clement Lee done this a long, long time. But I found drivers with lots of experience who sometimes forget that that's the best thing to do, and they go race it.
It's such an interesting conundrum, too, and we could go on and on about it, actually, because I think it is very interesting. Popular culture plays into that, right? The driver psyche, you want to be the guy who's leading. That's what winning is, right?
That's right.
But a lot of the time here, even in this, you see those guys who play it very cautious. They play it very safe. They're very disciplined, which is the word that you use. And then they'll take their spot. We've seen it work. Many, many times. So
well, and I've seen drivers who I think are really disciplined who will go racing. I don't get it sometimes.
Yeah, we contain multitudes.
That's right. That's right.
Here
So,
at Buttonwillow, we contain multitudes. It's about halfway through the race here, so we'll go ahead and bring you our full field rundown at the halfway mark, brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast on the Racing Wire Network. By the way, if you're here this weekend, over in the registration office, they've got Inside the SCCA stickers.
oh,
I picked one up
absolutely
earlier.
cool.
You can go grab one. Anyway, get some free merch.
Yeah.
But here's your full field rundown. Starting with your first place driver, climbing 4 places so far in the race. Number 10, Rocco Ruzic. In second place, number 89, Clement Lee. In third place, number 2, Austin Varco. In fourth place, number 35, Evan Jacobs. In fifth place, number 98, David Varco. In sixth place, number 7, Alan Lukehart IV. In seventh place, number 80, Giorgio Pereggielli. And followed by Jorge Diaz, Carl Yonk, David Mitchell, Gabriel Estrada Jr., Joseph Bogard, and finally, James Cook. Brent Messenger, unfortunately, not in the race at the moment. We'll see if he comes back in. I do not think he went behind the wall, Brian, so he might just be in the pits.
And that is our full field rundown brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast. And I'd like to remind everyone that you are watching, I hope, the Cal Club SCCA Divisional races presented by Porterfield Racing Brakes. Check them out for all of your racing needs, racing brake needs, as well as a bunch of other stuff. They sell a lot of things that aren't just brake related. Check them out, Porterfield let's start over. Porterfield-brakes.com.
Yep. Good old Porterfield. Appreciate their help here. If you're interested, by the way, in getting in on a sponsorship, I mean, we want more cameras.
Yes.
You can sponsor a camera. We want more production quality out here at Buttonwillow. We want to make these races as enjoyable. Obviously, proof of product is what you're watching today, but also, Brian, you do a ton of racing coverage of all sorts of very engaging and entertaining stuff. Get in touch. What's the email again?
raceannouncerbrian@gmail.com.
There you go. raceannouncerbrian@gmail.com. Get in touch.
Suppose I need a graphic with that too.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, maybe
Sponsorship
for tomorrow.
Maybe for tomorrow.
Maybe for tomorrow.
See if we can get some more sponsors on here, because honestly, if we could build it out, it's a bright future out here at the SCCA and Cal Club at the moment. Because when the new track opens up, we're going to have some really exciting races out here, because everybody is going to be new on that track, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, I'm going to have to talk to the graphic artists and have them get right on it.
Right, yeah. I forgot about the graphic artist department. Yeah. See where your funding is going?
That's right. I'll have to chat with the graphic arts department and see if that Brian is available to work on that.
The graphic design Brian.
Exactly.
Many hats are worn by Brian Bielansky, as it were. Anyway, taking a look here at our race, seeing if anything interesting has popped up. Austin Varco, that gap has widened for him, unfortunately. 3 seconds in, it's really been a bit of a struggle here. Clement Lee maintaining a very good pace right on the tail end of Rocco Ruzic. And we are getting down to about 10 minutes left, so a third of the race still to play for, which means that you still have plenty of time. The tires are heating up. It's getting hotter out there in general, or it probably is about peak heat right now. There is a stronger wind blowing. We're not talking hurricane gales or anything like that, but it's enough that we can actually see the grass moving from the, racing tower here. And it's something that you have to keep in mind. It's all kind of coming together, and making it. It's going to be a bit grueling here these last 10 minutes.
Yeah, at this point, we basically have two races going on. We've got a race for the lead and a race for third place, and that's how this will play out over the last 10 minutes here. And it will be very interesting because Varco and Jacobs, they've got lots of history. Rocco Ruzic's been out here this year. He's kind of new to our area, but I believe he's from, I want to say Texas originally. Let's see if I can pull this up here. Humble, Texas. That's right. So he's a great story. The first time he came to race out here, he's renting a car because he's from Texas, but all of his sim racing buddies pitched in money to get him to come racing here. Now, I don't know if they're still doing that. If it is, I got to get involved with his sim racing group because I'd like my sim racing buddies. And if you're part of the Thursday night sim racing league that I'm part of.
Oh, sorry.
What did I miss?
I didn't mean to interrupt. Nothing bad happened, but Clement Lee just was flirting with disaster right there. There was probably about an inch between him and Rocco, the aforementioned Rocco Ruzick, as they came sailing by. I mean, that was so close. I think what he was trying to do was he was trying to speed up on the straightaway to set up for a potential pass to get around him on the sunrise turn, and then he just didn't move out. I don't know if he misread the way that Ruzick was moving or what it was, but that was about as close as I see. I'm sorry to interrupt you, though.
No.
It's a very interesting story. I had no idea about him being sponsored by the sim racing.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if that's continued on after that first race, but for the guys who I sim race with, if you'd like to sponsor me, I'd be happy to take a couple $500 from each of you.
I'm sure
that'd be fun. But our leaders are going to come into our view here, and they're about to catch this last Spec Miata driver here, who's now coming up through Phil Hill. By the end of this race, this could become a situation, although he'll move over, I'm sure. I believe that's James Cook is the car they're going to come up on here. But there are your two leaders, Rocco Ruzick and Clement Lee. And then that second group of cars is Austin Varco and Evan Jacobs. So the last couple laps here could be really exciting.
Very much in pursuit. I mean, the Varco gap has widened, right? 3.58 seconds. It's not great, but Evan Jacobs and David and Austin Varco, they are very much still in the hunt. They're not out of this at all.
And they're definitely in the hunt for the third place on the podium.
Little bit of sorry, I keep interrupting you because things keep happening every time you start to fire some interesting stuff our way. But somebody came out of the bus stop right there and broke hard into that turn, nearly spun out on the back end. Managed to keep it together. I'm not sure exactly what driver it was, and I'll get confirmation the other time around. But sorry, you were saying about the race kind of top group here for that third place.
Well, the only point I was going to make is that it's not unheard of that two cars can get together on the final lap trying to race for the win, and if they come together, this race for third could very quickly become the race for the lead. And it looks like that Devin Jacobs is thinking about making a pass here, or may have already done so.
No. He was unsuccessful. He was definitely thinking about it. He got wide on it and tried to make it happen, and then he tucked back in behind. Also interesting, again, we see Clement Lee being very studious in staying right behind Rocco Ruzick, very tight on the straightaway, trying to build up as much speed as possible. Hasn't yet really signed the order to kick out there and go around, but it wouldn't surprise me if he does, probably within the next lap or two. I don't think he wants to go too early, which I totally understand, but he's starting to run out of road. He's got to make it happen.
6 minutes to go here. That should be approximately 3 laps. And there's a lot to happen here, I guarantee you. No one's going to be happy. The second place guy and the fourth place guy are not going to be happy with second and fourth place. So now I will tell you the leaders have split up just a little bit, and now they're going to come and have to dispatch this slower car, which they've done without any issues. Nice job. I believe that's James Cook. Really nice job of getting out of the way there. Thank you for that.
Yes.
And here comes Austin Varco and Evan Jacobs just came through our screen there. You can see there's now a little bit bigger of a gap between first and second place, and that could be all Rocco Ruzick needs to get to the end of the race here. We will see what happens.
It's probably problematic for Clement Lee, honestly, because he has been so close, but he just can't ever seem to really, find the opportunity that he's looking for. Not through lack of trying either, because it's been a couple of times now around these bends. He's tried, especially on this straightaway, and he just cannot find the purchase that he needs to get around. And here we go again. It's going to be the same model. Rocco Ruzick speeds up. Clement Lee speeds up. The two of them are nose to tailpipe as they come down. And here comes the rest of the gang. Evan Jacobs still very much hunting there for that opening, as is Austin Varco. Unfortunately for Austin Varco, he's still a good 5.5 seconds away. So not an ideal position to be with only about 4 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance that without a big problem with the first two cars, that Varco's going to catch him. And it does look like now he's actually opened up a slight lead over Evan Jacobs. So it could be this situation where with the temperatures and everything, Some of these tires are starting to go away, and depending on whether or not you abused your tires early, it could become the situation where now late in the race you're paying the price. Not the case though for Clement Lee. Oh, never mind. Reading the timings, I thought he had just had a fast lap, but anyway.
He has been putting out very fast laps, to be
Yes.
fair. It's just not his fastest.
Sure. Here they come. This is your leaders right here, first and second place. Right now, it's Ruzick and Lee, and then this next group of cars is Varco and Jacobs. Now, it's also possible that Jacobs and Lee are just kind of cooling their tires here for one last big push to the finish here, and that is not an uncommon situation, and we will watch closely to see if that has happened. I think we're going to get our white flag here, not this time by, but next time by, so I think there's 2 laps to go next time by.
Yeah, that probably about rings true here. I'm actually surprised that this next one coming up isn't a white flag, but
I'm guessing they're all wishing it was a white flag.
they might be wishing as well. Yeah, I mean it is hot as heck out there for our flaggers. Again, it's so climate controlled up in here that
yeah, we're lucky, folks. We're not complaining.
I think I keep thinking it's a nice moderate like 70 out there, but no, it's hot. It's hot. White flag is here. I think they're looking for the approval from timing and scoring.
Yep. So this will be the second to last race lap here. So about 6 miles for our leaders to go to get to the finish line. And I just missed them all. No, I didn't. That was your leaders. Here comes third and fourth place. Directing and announcing, folks, not something I recommend.
No, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. Next.
But I'm doing the best I can.
You're doing fine. It's good. It's going well. It's going well.
It's easier when there's only one class. Let me just say.
I can imagine. There's another race coming up after this one, so don't go anywhere. That'll be Group 6 still on the deck. Not a particularly huge group, but some fast cars in the group, so that should be fun to watch. But as soon as this race is wrapped up in just a few minutes, we'll be on our break, and then we can hop right back in. It won't be very long at all.
So Dennis Marshall says his first race out of school, they used the bus stop. He also said he raced with Andy Porterfield, the namesake of Porterfield Brakes. So
cool.
We miss Andy. He passed a couple years back, but a big important part of Cal Club. And Brett Fitch, he apparently is a Rocco fan, maybe one of his sim racing buddies. Hold on, Rocco, in the chat from Brett Fitch. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
Well, he is holding on at the moment. That is for sure. Hopefully, he can just continue to maintain this pacing as he powers along here. It would be the ideal scenario, but sometimes it doesn't always work out the way you want.
All right, Chuck Phillips is holding that white flag, waiting for Rocco Ruzick to come around here for the final time. Here they come through the S's. And then we'll see the third and fourth place car here. There they are. That is Varco and Jacobs. Varco's got a little bit of a gap now, so that's good news for him. Here comes your leaders onto the main straight. The white flag is going to be in the air. There it is. And here they come. And guess what? Clement Lee takes the lead with the fast lap of the day.
Oh, there it is. He's been waiting. And he finally took his moment. Can't particularly be surprised by that, if I'm honest with you, Brian. We talked about it earlier on in the race. We said it was building. He just waited until he had the opportunity. Now, however, last lap of the race, can Rocco Ruzick find it?
Yeah.
To find a way to get a 0.5 second gap. And I genuinely don't know that he's going to be able to do it. I mean, I'm keeping an eye now, and we'll look and watch as they come here through some of these challenges. And I mean, he's going to have to go hell for leather.
Well, and Ruzick is right back on the rear bumper of Lee as they go up through Grapevine. And there is going to be a big race here. And now they come through the dog leg for the last time here. And Ruzick is about 3 car lengths back. And he closed that gap here for the final lap here.
That was not the move that was needed.
Puts a big, that
was Clement
Ruzick?
Lee. No, it was Clement Lee just absolutely pounding it.
There you go.
Down through the bus stop. and went really deep into the dirt. The problem right there is he's going to lose a not insignificant portion of time.
Here they come. It's Lee out front, sliding there through that left-hander with Ruzick right behind him. Then you've got Varco and Evan Jacobs kind of making the same move. They got to get it together, Jacobs and Ruzick, if they want to have a chance to win the race for Ruzick and get on the podium for Jacobs.
We'll see. Unfortunately, we lose him a little bit. We will pick him up again. I think we've lost our 2 leaders, but they should be popping back in a second. I mean, it's a hard challenge for Rocco Ruzick. It really is, but I don't think it's insurmountable. I think they can potentially do it. Let's see.
Here they come right here. These are your 2 leaders. I believe that's still Lee and Ruzick. We're going to catch them here as they come down the line. Also, Varco and Jacobs, no change of position here. Here they come to the checkered flag. Who is going to be the winner? Is it going to be Lee? Is it going to be Ruzick? It looks like it'll be Clement Lee. Rocco Ruzick will be second. And coming towards the line also for third place, we're going to get Austin Varco, followed by Evan Jacobs. And Varco and Jacobs, their fastest lap of the race, came on the final lap.
Well, they were also booking it right there. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do your full field rundown here at the end of the race, starting with your overall race winner, number 89, Clement Lee, the overall winner of the Spec Miatas. In second place, number 10, Rocco Ruzick, who climbed 3 places overall in the race. Number 2, Austin Varco. In fourth, number 35, Evan Jacobs. In fifth, number 98, David Varco, followed by Giorgio Perangielli, Alan Lukehart IV, Jorge Diaz, David Mitchell, Joseph Bogard, Carl Young, Gabriel Estrada Jr., and James Cook.
All right, that's our Spec Miata full field rundown, brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast. Big thanks to Porterfield Racing Brakes for being our title sponsor. Appreciate all that they do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, our final race of the day, our GT Big Bore cars. That's up next. Stay with us. Welcome back to Cal Club SCCA Divisional Races presented by Porterfield Racing Brakes. We are at Buttonwillow Raceway Park on a hot and steamy Saturday afternoon. It's 94 degrees last time I looked. We're ready for our final race of the day. This is our GT class. Not a lot of cars, but some good ones for the ones that we do have. Our third row here, starters, Dale Schumacher is in an STU Mazda MX-5. He's out of Henderson, Nevada. Next to him is going to be Paul Gasson. He's in the ITE Ford Mustang Cobra from Fallbrook. Then you've got Norm Benson on the outside of row number 2. He is also in a Ford Mustang. He is from Paso Robles. And then your inside of row number 3 is Michael Arnheither. He's in a Chevy Camaro. He's from Thousand Oaks. And then your front row on the outside, we've got Wayne Graham. He is in a Mazda RX-7. He is out of Santa Barbara. And then finally, your pole sitter, Scott Graham. He is in a Mazda RX-7. He comes from Irvine. And that is your starting order. Not sure of the connection between Scott Graham and Wayne Graham, but I suspect they're probably related somehow. 30 minutes of racing here as we get ready to wrap this thing up. There are our cars heading towards up the hill towards Phil Hill, and we are here doing our thing for the final time. 30 more minutes before our racing is done for the day. And then guess what? We're going to do it all over again tomorrow. Racing tomorrow starts a little bit earlier. Our first race of the day tomorrow will be at 12:05 tomorrow morning, p.m. That would be Pacific time for those of you who might not be here in the West Coast. And we appreciate all of the folks who are watching us. Checking a real quick into the chat. And big thanks to Dennis Marshall, Brian Straczynski, Brendan Kazmarek, and Brett Fitch for being with us in our chat today. I'm Brian Belansky. Tristan Parker is here. And we got 30 more minutes, my friend, and then we get to go have dinner, take a nap, and then do it all over again tomorrow.
As is the way, yes.
Here comes our leaders here through the S's, not our leaders, but our pack. And they will have the pace car go on pit lane, and then we will get them on the main straight. Tracy Kane, our chief of starter, finishing up her last year's chief starter. Chuck Phillips is going to take over that job next year, and volunteer job. It's not like we're getting paid, but we're going to get the green flag here in just a second, and I need to start the clock. Going to be a few seconds late, but it'll get the job done. There we go. I'm sleeping on the job.
Now we're all good there. Race has started. Everybody underway. Only 6 cars in this one, so it's going to be a bit of a cruise, I think, for our drivers. But that's all fine and dandy for them out there.
Well, they will have fun nonetheless.
No doubt about it. That is true. They will have a good time.
Hopefully they've got a very large drink bottle in the car.
Yes.
And it's very cold.
Yes.
Whatever liquid is inside of it. And then when they're done, they can go to the adult beverages. But in this heat, I don't recommend it.
No.
Because you got to come back out and race tomorrow.
Bad idea. No, they'll be fine. I mean,
yeah.
It's quite warm. It's probably we're heading towards the cool down, but quite warm. We hit, I think, about 95 right there at one point in time. So, obviously, if you're 95,
it started to cool off. It's 93. Now 93.
I mean, it doesn't. If you're from California, it gets hot.
That's
You don't think, oh, it's not that bad. But you're not thinking about sitting out there in the car, in your race gear.
And the funny part is that there are other parts of the country who are just starting their racing season because they don't go racing till April because it's winter. So we are very lucky out here. None of us are complaining.
But you don't always think about it in the context of, well, okay, you're sitting there in the full suit with the helmet on in the heat. It all builds. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world. It's a little bit less bad for a lot of these GT2s, GT-Xs, what have you, because they are not open top vehicles. But for like the Spec Racer Fords or the Formula Fs, you're just cooking out there until the race gets started.
You see a little puff of dust there. Somebody put a wheel off as they came through the S's there.
Yes, putting a wheel off has kind of been a very common occurrence here this weekend.
Well, and I think it's a common occurrence at all racetracks. It's just we have very obvious signs when it happens.
Very clear identifying dust. So, I do think as well. Obviously, the bus stop changes it all up, and I mean the bus stop makes it a little bit worse for that
Sure,
as well,
sure.
and it changes the nature of the drive, and it's dry too. And the last couple of races it hasn't been, so perhaps we're all just excited to take advantage of the ability to run off the side a little bit and not get absolutely destroyed. And who knows? Well, if you've been enjoying the broadcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel here, the Racing Network. We'll always provide, or more content will be provided.
Yeah.
Lots of good content. You've been all over the place of late.
Well, I have, but I also, it's really nice to say that we've added another podcast to the Racing Network and the Racing Wire podcast
You
channel.
tell me more about this.
Yeah, it's called Driven to Compete. Carrie Roos is, I believe it's Carrie Roos or Rouse is the host. Another SCCA racer. He's based off on the East Coast, and he's doing his thing and talking with drivers of all different race disciplines, and doing a really nice job with it. And we've now added him to the Racing Wire Podcast Network, and he is your classic overachiever because he's doing 3 episodes a week. So,
oh my God.
So now we're going to have a brand new podcast episode on the podcast network Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if you like racing and you like racing podcasts, you need to become a member. You need to join and get subscribed. And I just forgot to change my camera because I'm talking too much. Yeah, so now Monday through Friday, fresh episodes every week. I'm really excited.
Wait, what was the podcast about again?
It's talking with race car drivers.
Awesome.
And race, anything with racing.
Anything racing.
It's called Driven to Compete, and you can find it the same place you find the inside the SCCA podcast.
I got to get on the ball.
Yeah, he drives B-Spec. He's a B-Spec driver.
Cool.
Yep.
I got to come up with a podcast.
Yeah, come up.
Behind the times.
I got a place for you to put it.
Thanks.
Especially if
Appreciate
it's
it.
about racing.
Yeah, that's the ideal of the.
And if it's not about racing, I got a place for you to put it too.
You're on the Racing Network. That's where it would be. The drive would be
Yeah.
a racing podcast. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So yeah, if you're interested, like, subscribe, get involved here, and follow the podcast, follow these broadcasts. Obviously, too, if you're interested in being a part of Cal Club, or if you're farther afield, you're interested in being part of the SCCA. Don't forget to check the Cal Club website or the SCCA website. They're both great resources there for anyone who wants to be a part of all of this fun, and it is good fun down here at the racetrack. Always a lovely once-a-month weekend with a nice summer break as well, to align with your kids' vacation time.
Exactly.
So you don't have to be here in July, where I only imagine that everything is just hot.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
you don't have to do that. So
No.
it's all good and a lot of fun, and we love to see it. Oh my Lord, that is not good. Is that okay? Hold on, that just might be me being unfamiliar with the racing. But Scott Graham came down into the bus stop. I believe it was Scott Graham's car in the GT2, and there was fire coming off of his back right tire. Is that a?
That was probably coming out of the tailpipe. So sometimes they get gas that gasoline that builds up and then it ignites coming out of the tailpipe. So is that a Mazda?
I do not.
If it's a Mazda, it's really common.
I hope that is. Something.
Yeah, that's a Mazda RX-7. That is incredibly common with the
'Cause
Mazdas.
it did not look like it was coming from the tailpipe. It looked like it was coming from the wheel well.
Well, the tailpipe's right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's not a tailpipe. It's probably a side pipe.
Yeah, you're a very good point. I
Yeah.
was gonna say that looked much more dramatic than it probably was to my eyes.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I mean, I'm still relatively new to a lot of the road racing stuff, so every once in a while I see something and I'm like, oh my Lord, and then I get told that that's just how it is.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's just fire. So hey, great stuff. Irregardless.
Fire.
Exactly.
Sorry,
No, it's a
I
classic.
it
Good
just
bit.
channeled my inner 17-year-old. Wayne Graham is your race leader. Scott Graham retaking now second place from Michael Arnheiter. So that's a good move for him. So if the fire is like turbo boost. No, I'm just kidding.
Sure.
but
Nitro.
he got it. No, I'm sure there's no nitro.
I don't know.
Well, if there is,
that's like one of those
that's
few.
pretty bold.
It's one of those few car terms that people just say the word nitro and everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's all from Fast and Furious. So
Exactly.
Familia. Anyway, fastest lap so far has been a 209.691 by Wayne Graham. It was a relatively impressive time overall. He's in a GT2 right there, and he's driving I want to say he's also in a Mazda. He sure is. An older Mazda, though. It's a 1984 Mazda RX-7, so a little bit older, sponsored by Mariah Motorsports. And it's, again, always interesting to see the diversity of cars that come out here in these categories. I love seeing some of these older cars get a run. The fact that there's a 1984 Mazda kicking around out there is just infinitely entertaining to me. And I love seeing the older cars get a new lease on life, such as it is.
Well, and these GT2 cars are typically, and that's not always the case, they're full tube frame race cars. So there's the only thing about them that is the Mazda RX-7 is the body, which looks like a Mazda RX-7, and the motor. But the frame itself is typically, now sometimes they still use the unibodies, but these are usually the GT2 cars are full-on tube frame race cars.
Bit of a ship of Theseus problem there, perhaps, with Mazda, but that's all right.
Well, my point with that was that the older cars can last longer because
they get an upgrade.
Yeah, they're not based on the production model so much in this particular class. So
makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Paul Gasson, I think, is running just a 1988 Ford Mustang Cobra, which is a cool car in and of itself.
Right. So
we'll watch as he comes around in a bit.
Right.
Sure.
So unlike the GT2 cars, the Touring 2 car here, the IT car, and the STU cars, those are all based on the production cars. So those, at one point in time, were on a showroom floor, and now they're being adapted for racing here. So very different types of cars in this particular race.
I can tell by looking at it, especially the Norm Benson car. He's in the T2. And that is I want to say like a 2012 Ford Mustang GT. And it has those very clear, I mean, you're never going to mistake that bad boy for anything else, basically, at this point in time. That was the car that I wanted when I was in high school. I wanted a Mustang.
I'm sorry.
It was not given. My parents were like, you're going to wrap that around a tree. And I was like, you're gone, probably right. So not the most economical choice either. A Mustang coupe. But, hey, it is what it is.
There you go. And here comes Mr. Graham right through our screen there. Second and third place is Scott Graham and Michael Arnheit are coming through next. And we're just going to stick here and let everybody come through because there's going to be a couple more groups here.
Worth pointing out, by the way, Brian, that on that last lap, the fourth lap, and you can tell this is a good example of tires heating up and people becoming more comfortable. 4 out of the 6 cars put in their fastest lap right there. So they're driving, and it's not an intense race for any of these guys. It's a good, nice Saturday evening, afternoon drive, and that's just how it is sometimes out here at Buttonwillow.
Well, and they're driving. They're not strolling here. So
I mean, they're all going very fast.
Yes, they are. Here comes this, I'm guessing, is Norm Benson and Paul Gasson. And then our final car through the screen here should be Dale Shoemaker.
Your famous Dale Shoemaker, as he likes to be called.
Yes, that's what I've been told. I've been alerted to that.
He's the famous Dale Shoemaker. That's great. Anyway, he's got it on the side of his car, if I remember correctly.
Oh, does he?
So I'm pretty sure he does.
That makes it even better.
Yeah, it does.
The famous Dale Shoemaker, as opposed to the not-so-famous Dale Shoemaker.
Shoemaker, yes. We call him Shoemaker as well. He's heard Schumacher, I believe, a number of times. He was telling me once, but not related to that.
Not related to the
illustrious
Michael
lineage.
or Ralph or.
So,
all right.
Or Ralph.
Yeah, Michael's brother, also a Formula One driver,
and his son too, right? Or one of them. I can't remember.
Would be Mick. Mick would be the son.
Mick wasn't. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into Formula One lore. We're not watching Formula One. I was reading an article the other day about how much money it costs teams when they crash those cars.
Oh, yeah. Don't even want to.
He was on the team for a year, and he cost us $48 million. So I was just like, oh.
That's not That's not a good.
It's like a country's budget.
That's right.
It's ridiculous. And there's that number 9 car coming, or 96 car coming around, the 91 car as well. And I will say, every time that they come back around that turn, it is flaming right there. So I don't know what's going on kind of with that specific part of the track, but there's something about it that kicks out fire. And I see it all the way around.
It happens when they lift off the gas, and it just so happens that we're seeing it at that right spot.
Interesting. It's very interesting.
Yep. So.
Truthfully, they don't tell you that on the showroom
Back
floor.
in the day, well, the way these things are built and the way they're so rich, that's part of the problem. You won't see that on your street car. But when they used to run these cars in like the 24 hours of Daytona or the 24 hours of Le Mans, when that flame would happen at night, it is the coolest thing to see.
I imagine so.
Yeah, if you watch any endurance racing, even today, you're going to see some of that, and you also get to see the bright orange brake rotors at night as well, which
very cool.
If you're a complete geekoid like I am, that gets you going.
It's good stuff.
That gets the juices going.
I do. I personally love a good. I love a good endurance race. I think they're a lot of fun.
That's my favorite. Literally my favorite.
One of my favorite types of racing for sure, and it's always a good fun. It's very entertaining. Here comes the number 91 and the number 63. Wayne Graham still well out in the lead. He hasn't quite gone back to his peak, which was that 209 lap, but he's still putting in very good times. Scott Graham and Michael Arnheiter are actually very close to one another. There is a slight race on there between them. Whether or not they're going to give it their all, I don't know. Technically, they're both going to get a podium spot irregardless of the outcome. But Michael Arnheiter is about 0.7 of a second behind Scott Graham. So there is a little bit of a chase to be had right there. But it's been that way for a couple of these laps now, and they both seem relatively comfortable with their position. So I don't know if it's going to be something where they're really going to go
well.
To the metal here.
Similarly, Norm Benson and Paul Gasson are not racing each other for class wins, but there's only 0.8 of a second gap between those two cars. So there's some stuff going on here to make this at least slightly interesting. We are at the halfway point. Let's do a full field rundown. At the halfway point, your leader is Wayne Graham in a GT2 Mazda RX-7, followed by Scott Graham, also in a GT2 car. Your third place car is your first place car in GTX. That's Michael Arnheiter. Then you've got your T2 leader, Norm Benson, and your ITE leader, Paul Gasson. And rounding up the back of the field is your STU leader, Dale Shoemaker. Now I say leader. They're all single cars in that class. But nonetheless, they're still leading something.
They're leading their division.
That's right.
Yeah, it's true. Don't mistake it. They are, in fact, leaders.
Tomorrow's racing action gets underway at 12:05 p.m. Pacific time. Same race group, same order. We're going to also go 30 laps tomorrow, or 30 minutes each race tomorrow. So we're going to do it all over again, and hopefully all of the cars survive today. They come back out tomorrow, and all of the drivers dealt with the heat okay today, so they can come back out tomorrow. Because I know our volunteer corner workers will all be here. All of our outdoor works. Let me take a minute, folks.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, what?
Sorry, I hate to interrupt you again. 9-6 white, that's Wayne Graham, who has been leading consistently. Mechanical fault. He's come in behind the pit wall here. He was the only one with competition in this race, by the way. So that is unfortunate, Brian. I hope that nothing serious. Apparently, he came very hard into the sweeper because he has having some sort of fault. So
okay,
see if they can figure it out. Scott Graham now shifts up to the overall leadership position. It's worth noting, by the way, that Michael Arnheiter has closed that gap to 0.57 of a second.
There you go.
Maybe there will be a race on here for us, a proper race.
Absolutely. So, and with the temperature, sometimes these cars don't run at this temperature all that often, and they don't like it. So that could be what happened to the Wayne Graham car. So we'll see if we can get some sort of word and share that with you tomorrow. So back to what I was saying, and interrupt me at any time if something interesting happens. Just a big thank you to all of our volunteers who are out there this weekend in these 90-degree temperatures. It is not easy to stand out in the elements here, and some places it's cold and wet. Here it's just hot. But we appreciate all of our corner workers, our grid workers, our tech workers. and our worker services folks. Those are the folks that are braving the elements. And then you've got all of us. Oh, and our starters. Also, I would like to, but then there's those of us who get to sit inside. At least the temperature is a whole lot better for us. But there's volunteers who work in race control. We've got our timing and scoring folks, our registration folks, and a lot of people it takes to put this thing together every weekend. And almost all of them are volunteers, and we couldn't do it without them. So, and a lot of our volunteers, because they're trained with the SCCA, get to do really cool things like go to the Long Beach Grand Prix and work there.
Yeah, that happened.
And all of the corner workers at the Long Beach Grand Prix were SCCA workers.
Yep.
And there's this really cool thing happening in November in Las Vegas. It's called Formula One. A lot of the workers there will be SCCA workers. So, if you want to go work at a Formula One race, you got to come through us. So come on out and volunteer, and it's your chance after some experience to do some of these big races. So,
You think they'll take us?
well, I used to be nationally licensed, so I know they're going to take me if I wanted to do it. But you need to get some time on the corner.
Yeah,
That's what we should do one weekend.
Yeah,
Is
get me
have
out
you
of the
skip
flag.
skip this,
Yeah.
and have you go out and work a corner station, just because it would be really good for you to be able to
Just
talk
get me
about this.
sunburned.
Well,
No,
yeah,
I know what you mean.
no, but I'm saying it's
Yeah.
it's a great
It would be.
experience.
It would be a great experience.
Um,
I agree.
And that would be really fun to have you out there and just see that up close. It makes it a lot more fun to talk about when you've been out there a little bit. So,
Well, an update on the situation on the racetrack. 91 Scott Graham, who was the leader, he had a little bit of an off and on oopsie. And in the course of his off and on oopsie, Michael Arnheiter, the number 63 car, got the pass. So Michael Arnheiter now in the lead, and Scott Graham playing catch up here. And I tell you what, you see the suspension on Michael Arnheiter's car is very sensitive, because every time he comes down into the bus stop and makes this turn, you can actually watch the body on his car fluctuate.
Huh.
It's quite interesting. You take a look, you'll see what I'm talking about, I think, next time he's through. But yeah, he's managed to take first place here. So good effort on the side of Michael Arnheiter. Now let's see if Scott Graham will catch up, because I imagine Michael Arnheiter taking first place there during Scott Graham's moment of distress has made it competitive, made it personal even.
yes, absolutely. And here are your leaders on the front straight, coming up on 10 minutes to go here at our final race of the day. Want to remind you to tune in again tomorrow for our racing action starting just after noon Pacific time. And if you want to make sure you know what's happening when it happens, click like and subscribe and that little bell so you get alerted when we do our stuff. That's the best way to do it. And we appreciate all the folks who are here with us this weekend, both at the track and in the chat. Good people. We're all good people. Well, I won't speak for myself, but y'all are good people. Y'all are good people.
Well, I try out here.
We do that. We do that. All right. I want to see if I can see this flexi suspension you keep talking
I
about.
don't know how else to describe it. It probably isn't even his suspension, but I did notice the last time. Here, you'll see this number 63. He might do it this time. It was very interesting the way his car just kind of moved. But it wasn't as pronounced. You see that though? Maybe that's just the natural.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of body roll.
It might just be really accentuated because he has so much body work, or made more kind of like noticeable. I will say, of all the cars that I've seen out here, Michael Arnheiter has one of the. It's a Chevy Camaro. I know the bones at least are a Chevy Camaro. And it is a bulky car. It is genuinely quite a big car. Just based on some of the other cars that we've seen out here. So maybe it's just that, it's more noticeable that he's really feeling those turns, as it were. But certainly the mass of the car, I'm sure, helps him a little bit with that, from what I understand. But it's interesting vehicle, interesting looking vehicle too.
Yeah, I'm going to see when it comes by the start straight here if I can get a better eye on it. I might be able to shed a little light as to what the
he just seems to wobble a little bit. I saw it on the screen just now. It's almost like the car is the bodywork is a little detached from the rest of the car. It just kind of planes. It's very Very funky. Maybe I'm just overly sensitive.
So that looks to me like it is a stock car chassis that's been bodied as a Camaro.
That might be it.
And stock cars, usually weren't made to go on road courses. So so that's my suspicion. Is it's a late model stock car, is what that is, and that's a lot of times what happens in the GTX class. Is it's kind of a catch-all class for cars that don't fit in GT1, 2, 3 or lights. So could very well be what's going on there.
It would make a lot of sense. It's a good hypothesis there for what's happening. It's just like I said, it's a very interesting looking vehicle. So, and he is doing great, by the way. He is racing very well right now. Lap 10, which was what just came through, fastest lap of the entire race, 2:08.766. So, Arnheiter doing a very good job right now.
So that car is rolling and tilting perfectly.
Yes, whatever it is,
it's working.
Whatever it is, it does look like a little bit like a ship every once in a while, the way it kind of tilts one back and the other. But he's doing great work with it, and he's putting in great times. Credit as well to Scott Graham, the number 91 car, also putting in really great times. He was at 2:10, his fastest lap of the day on lap number 10. So they're all doing really well, and credit to him. We saw how easy it is for these races to become a little messy, and all of them are racing very cleanly, and they're just doing their thing. The only car that we had go off was Wayne Graham, and it was a mechanical flaw. It was nothing to do with driver. So they've just running a nice clean race to run out the end of the day.
6 minutes and 20 seconds to go or so in this race, so that should be 2.5 laps or so. There is your race leader there coming through the S's, and then you will see Scott Graham come through next. We'll catch the leaders here as they come on to the front straight. That white car way off in the distance. That is Michael Arnheiter. I keep saying it with a German accent. I'm guessing he doesn't say it that way. But if he does...
I will say it is more fun to say it that way, just from a commentator's perspective.
It is. And since I'm half German, I feel like I feel like I have a kinship here. When my mother and my father married, we kind of sealed off the whole Eastern Bloc communism thing with the Polish and the Germans. So.
That's a pairing.
That's right. That's right. If you want to get some fiery discussions, you get a married German and Polak together. It's as good as it gets. It's good as it gets.
He probably does not say it on Hater, but it does sound more fun when you say it that way, and I will stick with it on that basis alone.
5 minutes left. I'm going to guess that not this time by, but the next time by, we're going to get the white flag here. Are we still cooling off? Have we gotten down into the 80s yet? Let's see here.
That's 92 now.
Let's see. No, it's still 93.
Oh, well.
It is 93
plateaued.
Beautiful degrees here.
I mean,
in the Central Valley. And there's a breeze today, which is nice.
There's a good wind.
Not really any humidity because, of course, it is Southern California. It's the Central Valley.
Admittedly, a lovely day out.
Yes.
If it wasn't so hot, it would be better. But admittedly, it's been a nice day.
I've been here when it was 103.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I now work in the broadcast booth.
Yeah. I remember one of our races we did, it was ungodly hot. I can't remember how hot it was, but it was easily high 100s, and it was miserable out there. I mean, crack an egg and cook it sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I always say, and I do stand by this, if you've never had an opportunity to come out to Buttonwillow, I highly encourage it.
Yes.
The whole Steinbeck Central Valley thing, it might not be your jam, but it is lovely out here. It is actually very nice.
Yep.
And the views are quite nice. It's a very pretty location for what it's worth. If you're into that sort of scenery, you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it. For many years, I drove up and down the 5, so I feel like never really fully appreciated just how nice it is out here. Would I want to stay? Perhaps not, but it is nice.
Yes, and there's some really cool. I mean, there's some farm country, and they've got some. They've got some oil fields out here.
You got all sorts of weird stuff.
Lots of avocado trees and almond trees. So
It's
yeah, it's
nice.
kind of cool.
It's one of those things about California where it's easy to forget how much diversity there is in
my
our
gosh,
scenic
really,
pool.
it's crazy.
Because if you head about 100 miles in the direction towards the ocean, you'd be in foothills that are just completely different from this. So it's wild. Anyway, back on the racetrack, Michael Arnheider is actually holding on very well to his lead. I will say Scott Graham did get faster on his last lap, 209.396. White flag should be coming out on the next lap around.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
we're nearly done with the race. 2.787 seconds is the gap between the two of them. Focusing down the rest of the pack, Norm Benson, Paul Gasson, Dale Shoemaker, all having very clean races. No real competition between them, but all of them doing very well. And then unfortunately, Wayne Graham had to go behind the wall. We won't be seeing him again on the track, which was misfortunate for him because he was actually the race leader. So it happens, whether you like it or not.
And hopefully he can get fixed whatever the problem was, so he can come back out and race with us again tomorrow.
That is the sincere hope, I'm sure, from all of us up here in the booth. You like to see as many races as possible.
Absolutely. All right, here comes your leader. That's the white car coming into our view right now of Michael Arnheider. The next white car you're going to see is Scott Graham. And Scott Graham is a lot further back this time than he was last time.
With a mechanical in the sweeper as well. And the real irony of that is that Wayne Graham was also the GT2 category car. He popped into the sweeper with a mechanical. So both of them having a not so good, very bad day on the tail end of this race. And that's just unfortunate. Michael Arnheider, though, lap 13, 206.428. Actually pretty fast.
That's his fast lap of the race, happened on the last lap here, which is not usually how it works when it's 93 degrees outside.
For the category, that's pretty fast,
that is
actually.
Awfully fast,
for a GTX. That's not bad for a 3.1 mile track. Again, you have to keep reminding you guys, if you're still listening, to 3.1 miles is a long track.
Well, it is, and Michael Arnheider is not someone who I've seen out here very much.
Very rare.
So he might be just learning this racetrack and getting a little better of a racetrack, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
And he's going to come up. I don't think he's going to catch these slower cars here on this lap before he gets to the start-finish line, which I think all of them wish that he would because they don't want to do another lap. He might get this one, but I don't think he's going to get the other ones. Here he comes. That's the white car, folks, coming up to Phil Hill for the final time. About 1.25 miles to go here to get to the finish line. You can see the time is running out. When that white car crosses the finish line the next time, it will not be the start line. It will be the finish line. We're going to catch him here coming through the S's one more time. You're going to see a couple of dark-colored cars, followed by a white car. That white car is your race leader. He's gotten around one back marker. Sad for that car. He's going to have to go around and do one more lap. Or he's not, but the two in front will. Here he comes. There is your leader. And here is the front straight camera. It'll be the third car in line across here. Will be our race winner, and that is going to be Michael Arnheider. He has taken the checkered flag. And the car right in front there is going to have to do one more lap. Aw, shucks.
Oh, well.
I think we can safely do our full field rundown here. Michael Arnheider is your winner. Paul Gasson is in second. Norm Benson third. Dale Schumacher third. Scott Graham all the way down to fifth. And then Wayne Graham is in sixth.
And I do want to give credit to Michael Arnheider, 204.943 on that last lap. Fastest lap.
He did not sit on his laurels.
He did not sit on his laurels whatsoever. Really was putting in a shift there at the tail end. So credit to him, honestly. Well done. And if that had been a race with a more competitive environment, that would have been a very solid race for Michael Arnheider, considering as well, like you said, not a name we're used to hearing.
Yeah, no question. No question. Okay. We're going to wrap it up here, folks. A big thank you to all of our workers out here this weekend, all of our Cal Club administrators helping us put this thing on. Of course, Porterfield Brakes. They are our big sponsor. We would not be here without their help. It's porterfield-brakes.com. Check them out for all of your brakes and needs and a bunch of other stuff as well. And we're going to do it all again tomorrow. 12:05 is when we're set to get started. 12:05, right after noon. I'm Brian Belansky. Tristan, thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Always happy to be here.
All right. This, that half of the almost dynamic duo will be here as well.
Yeah, looking
We're
forward
going to
to
have
it.
a great time. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. You guys have yourself a great weekend. If you're driving, drive safely. And, of course, as I like to always say, go play with cars.